Hello everyone, welcome to another DCU spoiler cast. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me, as almost always, it's Austin, the Day Ghost. I guess it's always for this. We've been doing these speculation casts together, and it doesn't feel like it's been that long since we talked about this, but we have gotten, in some ways it feels like it's been a really long time actually, because there have been quite a few more developments since the last time we did this, and obviously I have talked about the James Gunn reboot and all the developments as they're happening a bunch on the Captain Logan show, but it seemed like we knew enough more now that it was time for Austin and I to talk more about this and to come up with more wild theories and predictions that will almost certainly not come to pass. Waste your time, Volution. That's what we like to do here.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because what was it? Gunn was hired like 6 months ago. We already have like a Metamorpho cast in his Superman movie. Fantastic Four was announced 2 years ago, and they don't even have main actors.
Yeah, they keep talking about potential Reed Richards, but we still don't know for sure who's going to be in that movie. Yeah, no, that's right. That's crazy. Well, and I was thinking about this too. This will be the first time we have, in I guess I'll say ostensibly, solo Superman movie that has really comic book stuff in it at all. Like, isn't that crazy that it's taken this long finally to get there? I'm getting ahead of myself. Tonight we're going to talk primarily about Superman Legacy because we've got some new casting announcements, and I wanted to go ahead and broadcast and weigh in on that because I was getting questions about it from people, and I'm on vacation right now, so I'm not doing regular content this week, and we're not going to have a Captain Logan show this week. We should. There's so much stuff going on, Austin. Maybe I should just, like, in the middle of the night some night, just show up and be like, Captain Logan show. Sorry, DJ. Sorry you couldn't make it. Because there's
I've been living it up the last 2 days in news. I got that new Godzilla movie. I don't know how, but I like willed a remake of the Clock Tower game into existence. I've been begging for that for like months, and then today they announced it.
They announced what now?
It's a remake of a Japanese horror game called Clock Tower.
Oh, crazy.
It was an SNES game, or I think SNES, but it was only released in Japan.
Oh, wow.
They announced that and a remaster of the Gex trilogy.
Just before we started broadcasting, I was about to mention that. I saw, I didn't, it was like 35 seconds. I haven't watched the trailer. I know what that's going to look like. I played those games. But I saw that they're doing a remaster of the Gex, or that they were releasing it. Is it full on, like, remakes, or are they just...
I think because the terminology for games is so weird. I think because they said remaster, it's just kind of taking what is there and just like upscaling it. I don't think it's a full-on remake.
See nobody's gonna care about this. I wouldn't want to see a from the ground up remake of the original because that's sprite graphics and or is it pre-rendered? I think it's I think that's sprites.
I think so.
At the very least, it's 2D and it's flat animation, and I wouldn't want to see that redone in some other style. But the 3D games could absolutely use that treatment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say it's the same studio. At the very least, it was announced at the same spot that was doing the Clock Tower game. And for their announcement thing, they just played footage of the original game and talked about like reworking the translation and stuff like that, and adding animated like cutscenes like here and there, I think.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I think it's just like upscaling what was already there as opposed to ground up remakes.
So I'm excited about that. Yeah, the Switch is going to turn out to be the last system I need. And then when they stop doing updates, quality of life stuff for that, I'm gonna cry and then never buy video games again. Like that'll be the end of it for me. But anyway, so like I said, tonight we're gonna talk primarily about and then like the Wonka trailer dropped. Like there's all kinds of stuff that we could be talking about, but we're gonna limit it tonight mostly to the DCU stuff. So we're gonna speculate about Superman Legacy, and we had already been kicking around doing one of these for Brave and the Bold, so we're gonna tack that on. Also, I mentioned that on the Captain Logan show. I think last show I did, and I was like, maybe Austin and I'll do because I kept thinking of stuff for Brave and the Bold, and people in the comments were like, live. By the way, welcome if you're watching live right now. Thanks for being here. People in the comments live were like, oh yeah, you and Austin should totally do that. And then Austin came in, was like, yes, we should do that. So anyway, so this will be that as well. So let's go ahead and just start with the casting announcements. You mentioned Metamorpho. The first thing that I was surprised by when we got this kind of dump of other casting choices is just like none of them are typical regular Superman characters. It's all it seems like getting the on the ground running, getting the foundation paved for the DCU writ large. That could be really smart. It also could be too much of an ensemble cast movie. That's kind of my fear with it. I have, for the most part, besides like his super early stuff, only seen Gunn do big ensemble cast movies, and that's what his superhero stuff has all been. Marvel onward. It's ensemble cast movies, it's team movies, and I'm not saying that I'm really afraid that his Superman movie is going to be like, getting the team together, that's going to be another one of those, but I am concerned about potential screen time stuff. He's really good at juggling a whole bunch of characters, don't get me wrong, but we haven't had a good Superman character study in a really long time, and I just hope that doesn't get too in the way. I don't know if I should be concerned about this at all, but if I have a concern about it, it's that. If I'm excited about anything with that, it's, oh yay, finally, comic book stuff in a Superman movie, Isn't it interesting that the first of the... Because we didn't know very much when we did our first speculation cast, and we were still assuming... in some ways, it feels like the Dark Ages now, right? Because we were also, I said it hasn't been very long, but then at the same time, when we did that, we still thought that this was probably all like very soft reboot with DCEU, and that they were going to cherry pick and keep certain stuff. And now we know for sure that's not going on. So you remember I said for a full-on reboot, if you didn't start with Superman, because we didn't even know if we were starting with Superman yet, if memory serves, the first time we did one of these, I said if you don't start with Superman, the natural place to me to go would be to actually go back to Green Lantern and start in space and do what you should have done in the first place when that was supposed to be the start of a shared universe. This is going to be both.
yeah,
we're actually kind of doing both. I don't know how much the Green Lantern stuff will be, will actually be integrated with this. We have a Guy Gardner. We don't know if we're going to have any other Green Lantern stuff in this. But it seems to me like we're really like getting the ball rolling for a lot of things we already know about with DCU, right? Because like that gets your foot in the door for the Green Lantern side. We're doing the Lanterns TV show. Hot Girl, I'm sure, is gonna get us started for some other thing we're doing later.
Whatever the Thanagarians or whatever their name is, I can't remember. Whatever that stuff is, yeah. I don't care about Hot Girl or Hawkman, so I don't know.
I don't typically either. She's fun in the DCAU. Like I like her dynamic with Green Lantern and everybody in that show. She has a romance with Jon Stewart that's pretty effective. But
okay, interesting.
But anyway, so we got Hot Girl.
We got Mr. Terrific.
Who I guess that actress is supposed to also be in Madam Web.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't know that. I'm looking at a list of casting from Insider, and Isabella Merced?
Yeah, who was live-action Dora, I found out yesterday, thanks to Spencer Nielsen.
Okay, interesting. She looks good in the face for this role.
And she was also a runner-up for Ratcatcher, because I have a thing with that where nobody guessed like any of the stuff. Like, nobody was like, oh, hey, they're auditioning these roles, so I'm guessing they probably didn't, and he probably had actors in mind, because obviously you have Philly and he's a good friend, he's good friends with, and then this actress was a runner-up for Ratcatcher, so I'm assuming that he called her up and was like, hey, I wrote this role.
So you don't think, so your speculation with this is they didn't actually do screen tests or reads for these characters?
But it also only works for those two, because those are two that like I know Gunn has had some sort of contact with that falls apart with Metamorpho and Mr. Terrific.
But none of this stuff seemed to have been leaked, like
Nobody
the
guessed
bigger characters. But then they might not have needed to see as many people. I mean, he could have had some folks in mind even if he didn't personally know them, because
Absolutely.
a couple of these are people who have been in big superhero projects before, and it's likely that Gunn saw those, and probably in the back of his mind for years was like, if I ever cast a Mr. Terrific, it's gonna be that guy from X-Men First Class.
He was in theaters for First Class, and he was like, "This guy is Mr. Terrific. I'm gonna log that in the back of my head for now."
Yep, he's perfect. He'll especially be perfect if I don't make a movie with Mr. Terrific for like 12 years. He's a little bit older, and then I'll cast that guy. But anyway, so that's Edie Gothagy. I don't actually know how to pronounce his name. I've never heard it out loud.
I'm not sure. I can't remember even how it's spelled. I just saw like the pictures. I didn't see the names.
But yes, so this is Darwin from X-Men First Class.
And the obvious joke, right, is that he evolves to survive anything. So he was hit with that energy thing, so he evolved into the DCU.
Into the DC universe. It just took a really long time. I think that's great casting. I'm excited about that, and I liked him in that movie. And I was in I want to say the camp. I think everybody was kind of in agreement on this. That the way he was taken out was kind of stupid. And like, I like First Class, but it very much had that like token black guy that has to die thing that we did a lot more back then, and it was also just stupid with his power. You know, it seemed like that like ironic for the sake of being ironic thing. Like, oh, he survives everything. He'll be the one that dies. Okay, and right away, founder of the X-Men. So anyway, so that's, I don't know, that's nice comeuppance for him. That actor deserves this.
Yeah, no, he absolutely deserves this.
So that's wonderful. And then we also have, you know what, I guess this list was even before the Metamorpho casting, but that's the guy who played
today.
That's the guy who played Zaz in Gotham, and he looks good too. That's a good choice, and that is not as much of a comeuppance thing because that guy got a weird amount of screen time in Gotham. Like, he's there forever. I think he's in the last season. I think he's there all the way up.
Okay, I don't think. I don't think I watched that show to when they introduced Zaz.
Yeah, he's there in the first season.
Oh, okay, then clearly I haven't. I just don't remember.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think he comes in kind of late, or like in the middle of the first season. Anyway, but he's good in that. I mean, that show is bizarre, but he's, you know, for what they give him, he's good in that.
Yeah, for sure.
So the track record, I mean, 2 does not a pattern make, but what I'm seeing probably... unwrapping here, unpacking Austin, is we're going to see a whole bunch of actors who played characters before in superhero stuff where we go, oh, that wasn't a bad choice for them, but then Gunn gave them what they should have had in the first place. You know, like this is a real clear choice here. And that gets us to Nathan Fillion, who I have said for years needs to play a superhero before he gets too old, and it's ridiculous that we're already into 2023 and he's never played on screen a major superhero. I love Nathan Fillion, going all the way back to Firefly. I've always associated him with superhero stuff because I actually saw Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog before I saw Firefly even. And so my introduction to... No, I saw Serenity one time and didn't totally know what I was looking at because I hadn't seen the TV show. But then the next thing I saw Fillion in, and I probably didn't even realize it was the same guy, to be perfectly honest with you, was Dr. Horrible, and he is, of course, the superhero but villain of that movie. And so I've always associated with him with superhero stuff. And I don't do the fan casting thing, but I have fan cast Nathan Fillion for years.
You're like Eric's old channel where every fan cast had Nathan Fillion in there somewhere.
it's kind of perfect. It's just kind of right.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It just sucks that he didn't get to do this like 15 years ago.
Well, I was always annoyed that Marvel didn't cast him, like, continue with him as Wonder Man.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great choice, even though that scene's cut in Guardians 2 and it's just a poster. Like, that's a great choice.
Yeah, but now he gets to play something at least as well known or more well known than that. So I mean that's cool. Guy Gardner is a both fan favorite and fan hated Green Lantern, depending on who you ask. Some people love him, some people hate him, and even within my household, there's argument about this. My wife hates Guy Gardner with a passion, and my son Jason's favorite Green Lantern is Guy Gardner.
It's so a way to ruin Thanksgiving, basically.
Yeah, well, ruined dinner last night. I brought this up, and my wife was like, "Oh, because Sarah loves Fillion. Oh, really? He's got to play Guy Gardner." I said, "Yeah, but you'll be able to tolerate Guy Gardner because it's Fillion." And she's like, "Yeah, I guess." And then Jason was just over the moon. He didn't know what to do with himself. That was the casting. Mm-hmm. It's weird in my brain because he voiced Hal Jordan so much in animated movies.
So much, yeah. I think the best thing for me about the Fillion casting is that it's specified in the article that he will have the bowl cut.
Yeah.
And I'm like, perfect.
I just think he's going to go full-on comic book for everything he can get away with. Mm-hmm. Well, I say get away with. Like in adaptation. Like, whatever will look good enough on screen, and even if it doesn't, he'll probably try to find a way, right? You'll see whatever the most. Tell me if I'm right about this. My guess is you'll see the most popular, most recent versions of things. So like whatever version of a character, is like. I'm not being very articulate. Whatever version of a character people know the look of best, of like most recently, that's the one he'll go with. You know what I mean? So if it's been since 1973 that anybody's really paid much attention to the look of a character, he'll use the 1973 version. But if it was last Thursday, he'll do the one from last Thursday. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Okay, so the first question I have...
And so, of course, Guy Gardner has the bowl cut, because that's what everybody remembers from that. Like, Gardner was huge in the 90s, and that's the last time people really cared about that kid. I mean, that's not totally fair. He still shows up a lot. He's important in comics and things. But, like, we think of Guy Gardner as a 90s character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. The most important question I have to ask you, though, because it's you, is so with all these casting choices, how likely do you think it is that Batman shows up in this movie? Even if it's just a cameo, even if it's just like an after credit scene, the two of them are in the room.
Could we introduce him here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
what do you think the likelihood of that is?
I think it's a lot more likely. I'm sorry, let me process this, because like 4 different possible contingencies came to my mind all at once.
That's very Batman, so let's hear them.
Yeah, so the first thing I thought was he'll do some sort of tangentially related thing. You'll see some piece of Batman mythos that's not Batman and that's not in a real obvious character that will then inform Brave the Bold in some way, give you some kind of little glimpse of it. I really doubt actual Batman shows up in this movie. I doubt they cast him before it happens, and the thing is, I don't think you can get away with making that a surprise, which would be the reason Gunn wouldn't do it, right? He's not going to be able to introduce you to their Batman and you don't know who the actor is before you see it, but if he does and he can get away with it, that is quite the coup. That would be killer, and I wish it would happen, but I don't see it. I'm sorry. I'm talking over you.
No, it's okay. I said he can get away with that with Phyla-Vell in Guardians. I don't think he can get away with that with Batman. I agree.
Who the hell cared about Phyla-Vell? Like, who knows?
I did.
Who knows who that is?
Our buddy Doolittle the other day said something that I think could be likely, just going off of what you said with the tangentially related thing, which is if you're doing like a Superman, like a Clark and Lois story, you could have like a Vicky Vale reference. That could be the way to do what you're saying.
Oh, that's cool. What if they were friends?
Yeah.
Or what if they were rivals or something?
Yeah.
Like Lois and Vicky Vale? Or what if... Look, it's a speculation cast, so we're just going to do a bunch of these. Or what if you have a Jimmy Olsen who's a photographer and he hates Vicky Vale for some reason?
He just walks around the complaint. Oh, like what if he worked with Vicky Vale and he was like, she was such a jerk.
Yeah, I freaking hated her. Like she was my mentor for a while, and she turned out to be like just a total asshole, and I hate her.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
No, that would be really fun.
So just real broad predictions and guesses at things. And let me say one or two things real quick, and then I'll read this super chat that just came in from MP. Thanks very much. So first thing is, given that now we know some of these more relatively obscure, if you don't read comics, you won't know who they are, or if you didn't watch DCAU stuff, you probably won't know who they are, or if you weren't really into the Arrowverse and stuff, because I think most of these characters showed up somewhere in the Arrowverse or were brought up. Maybe not Metamorpho, but you've got Metamorpho. You've got a Green Lantern now. You've got you're Hot Girl. You're hitting all these pockets. You've got even characters that are very associated with Justice League. We have already been told about. So one thing I think we can be pretty sure of, tell me if you agree with this, is this is already a lived-in DC universe. This is not going to be the Superman exists and he's American. This is going to be a DC universe where people are already aware of superheroes. I was already pretty sure that's what he would do, but this makes it pretty crystal clear that that's where we're going. I also have said from the beginning that the Superman Legacy title was probably suggesting a Superman that has been around for a while, even though we're casting him pretty young. This is probably not... I mean, maybe we'll jump around time, but if you're doing a movie about the legacy of Superman, right? Lived in DC Universe, he's already inspired some people. He's already been around the block a few times. Maybe this is only his second, third, fourth year, but I doubt very seriously if the whole thing is Superman year one. I think there's likely to be some time jumping, and
he'll be around longer than Batman was in the Batman, I think.
Yeah, but I think by quite a bit. I think this could be third or fourth year he's been around.
Yeah, no, I feel 4 years is probably a safe bet, maybe 5.
Do we know for sure what his age is supposed to be? Is it 31, 32?
Gunn said that just the other day that he'll be the same age as Corn Sweat, who I think is 31 when that comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there's no reason that your Superman can't have already been around for 3 or 4 years if he's 31 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason you can't do a 21, 22-year-old Superman. That's been done.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was something I said with Batman, which is I think Batman could easily be early to mid 30s, even though he has Damian. It just depends on where you move that in the timeline.
Well, yeah. I mean, by the logic of New 52, when everything was condensed into 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Superman could be your Batman could be 30, 31 years old, and he's been through Nightfall and No Man's Land and everything.
But with Batman, you could have it be that
and he's got a kid, and yeah,
that Talia was impregnated while Batman
died already.
The Damian was conceived while Bruce was doing his training around the world. You could easily do something like that. And then that would be when he's 20,
Yeah. So but do you agree with that? Do you think that the whole thing is not going to be origin or even just real early stuff?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm shocked by how lived in it is, because it's way more than I expected. I didn't think we'd have a Justice League yet, but there's a very strong possibility we could.
I kind of hope so. I really like just dropping us in now. Is it risky, that you might lose some of your audience, right at the beginning, or maybe not lose them, but just confuse them or make them wonder if they want to get into the commitment of, okay, but there's all these characters and all. Yeah, it's a little bit of a risk. At the same time, people are so much more acclimated now to the shared universe thing and to just superhero universes in general that it's not as risky as it would have been in 08 or even in 13 with Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm. I think about I'm sure there's a ton of people that started with Avengers, with the MCU,
Yeah.
that hadn't seen any of those first movies. I know my dad personally, the first two MCU films he watched were Winter Soldier and Civil War. And like, if you asked a ton of MCU fans, they'd be like, you can't watch Civil War without like 18 other movies, but he followed it.
People did. I mean, even the Russos said that.
Yeah.
They were like, with Civil War, they said, this is the movie where we're no longer going to be concerned, you know, we're not going to hold your hand anymore, like they had before, which was great, because that had sometimes been a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point with movies that we have with comics, at least like that I have, which is you kind of have to have like a level of just accepting things. When
Yeah.
you get to them, where you're like, oh, this character showed up. Okay.
This is the reason that I said, going all the way back, I think, to Man of Steel and BVS, that it is possible to start your shared universe with Justice League and not lose people and because you have too many characters that are difficult to juggle. And we almost did that. I mean, it's really interesting the sheer number of times we've tried shared universes and they have failed with different DC projects, because we tried it initially with the Justice League movie that didn't even happen. Like, Mortal was supposed to be the start of a shared universe, and that was going to be all new versions of characters, and then that fell through. But it was, for people that don't know, I mean, that movie was cast and everything. Like, it got almost as far as Superman Lives did. I don't know if they got to a costuming place like Superman Lives did, but
I think they did. I think there's pictures of them on
Are there
their
really?
cast. I think that only falls through like right before filming, like principal photography, and that's because of like
That was-
tax stuff with.
wasn't that a
Australia.
writer's strike thing?
No, that was
Because it was right
they were-
around that period.
they were
was it
going to
not?
film in Australia, and then
Oh,
Australia
no,
like
that was later than that.
pulled back some of the write-off stuff I think they had with
That's right.
Australia, because they were like, this isn't an Australian movie, despite having like an Australian director.
And forgive me, because I've talked about this on camera before, but it's just been a while, so I forgot about all of
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
But yeah,
No, that's like a Swamp Thing TV show thing.
yeah, that sucked for that show. I mean, I haven't watched it. I don't
I
know
watched
if
the
that's-
first 2 episodes.
I don't know if that's worth watching, but I just felt bad for everybody that was making that.
Yeah,
when that
I
happened.
agree with that.
So, but anyway, so you had that with that. You had, and isn't that so bizarre? So I don't mean to just get into history mode again, but isn't it really interesting that before MCU even gets really off the ground, and especially well before Avengers, DC tries it with Justice League, like almost tries it with Justice League. So that would have been their first thing.
Well, and I'm
And-
trying to remember, but I could be wrong, so like take this with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I think Peter Safran was a producer for Justice League Mortal.
Is that right?
I think
That's
so.
interesting.
But I could be wrong about that.
And then Green Lantern tried it, and that is somewhere in the middle of doing it with a Superman, like a singular solo superhero project, and your big Avengers type team movie, because it's more of an ensemble cast. Depending on how you do it, like there's going to be a larger cast of characters, and you're already opening up the curtain to the cosmic side of the universe, but you're not starting with, you know, the big team of characters that you'll still eventually build to, which is why I always thought that it was smart to start there. That movie sucks, but they weren't wrong in their instincts to try to start a shared universe there. And then you get Man of Steel, which is probably just, you know, all things being equal, like forget about the Marvel side and who you're up against. That's probably just the correct way to do it. You know, that you'd start your DC superhero universe with the first superhero, you know, and the most iconic. That's probably the place to start. But anyway, so it's kind of cool the way that we're gonna have our cake and eat it too with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like-
And I think a big thing is that, like with these characters that have been cast, I don't think they're gonna have a big role. Like I think they will be like,
That's my hope.
I think they'll be like Stallone in them, from the Guardian sequels.
And they won't just show up at the end to fight a big monster or something either, I wouldn't think.
I could see. I was thinking about this today. I don't think I told you this, but I could see it being the opposite. where it's like you open on some sort of villain showing up and you have like all these heroes that are fighting it and they're like, oh no, like we can't beat it. And then that's like your big like Superman introduction where it's like,
Yeah.
boom, here comes Superman.
Yeah.
I could see that being how we open it.
If that happens, everybody is going to see that as a diss on Captain Marvel at the end of Endgame, right? Like, everybody's going to look at it, oh, this is commentary about that.
Imagine it's like, I don't know, Metamorphose on the ground. He's like, oh man, we can't beat this. And then you just see like a red boot stamped down next to him, and the camera slowly pans up, and then it's like, it's Superman.
If they do that, though, that's gonna, I mean, it's Gunn. I'm I'm sure it'll be cinematic and exciting and cool, and it will be the last thing you'll expect, even if you're expecting it, because he'll do some crazy cool thing with music or something. I kind of still hope that movie doesn't have too much incidental music, but he can win me over on it, I suppose. But anyway, what was I gonna say? If you do that, though, it could feel too much like the opening of almost every DC direct-to-video animated movie. Like, they all open with a big fight scene of some kind that has very little to do with the rest of the movie.
The difference, though, is that this will be cool and cinematic.
And well, that's why I said that. And very often with a bunch of characters that aren't really involved in the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And it would also be really funny if that happened and you're also making a Brave and the Bold movie, because that's what the Brave and the Bold TV show always did, where you had a little cartoon at the beginning that didn't have anything to do with the rest of the show.
No, but I feel like the most likely role that they have is, and the article that announced them was like, maybe the Authority's the villains of this, we don't know yet. And I feel like if that is the case,
I hope they're not doing that, by the way.
See, that was what I said when they announced those two movies back to back. I was like, oh, we can finally get like a live action Superman versus the Elite.
I don't want to start there. Hey, I'm sure he'll win me over on it if that's what he does. I don't want that. I just want a Superman movie, man. I just want like classic Superman rogues, because okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the problem with Authority is, but we still haven't done comic book supervillains for Superman in friggin' 50 years.
See, I feel like,
besides Lex and Zod, and Doomsday doesn't count because he's just Zod also.
I feel like that would be like a big mic drop moment, though, is to be like, Superman's not been in film for like 20 years, so our first big movie coming back is, hey, look at these like edgy characters that are way cooler, which is what we did last time. And no, this is why Superman is important.
I see the story. I feel like I see the point of it. It's not what I want. I just want something.
That's fair.
I just want something more kind of classic and basic and back to back to brass tacks, which is why I'm a little bit nervous seeing Metamorphose in this. And you see what I'm saying? Like,
but I feel like if that is the case, I feel like it will be Superman is here, the Authority or whatever is here, and then you have like Lex Luthor here, and it's the two of them battling ideologies against Lex, who will be the actual villain.
Yeah. And
then we'll maybe get like a scene where he talks with these other heroes, and maybe it's like, people like these guys better, and they're like, no, Superman, you're way cooler.
I'm going to go on record to say I do not believe that's what that movie will be, and I will be pretty surprised if that's what it is.
No, I could be completely wrong.
And let me tell you the main reason I don't think that's what he'll do. Because he's already announced the Authority. I just don't see it. I don't see him announcing their own project and then revealing later that they're the villains of this movie. I don't think that happens.
Mm-hmm. But I could also see it be like, they're a bit more like riding that line, and then Superman brings them over more and kind of shows them the way.
Regardless of
their movie,
but regardless of their place in it, he's already announced their movie. I just don't see him putting them here. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying like I don't have any reason for that besides just a gut feeling. I don't think that's what it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, nobody knows at this point, so that's part of the fun.
Yeah. I'll be a little disappointed if that's what it is, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell that story later, man. Don't introduce him with it.
See, I just feel like that would be a good Superman's back on film story.
I get it, but I don't. I mean, this is all just, you know, opinion and personal interest and whatever. But like, I don't need that movie to be about making Superman cool again. And obviously it would be in the opposite way that Snyder tried to do it. I get that it's like that you're going to do the social commentary of this is the reason that we need Superman in our modern day and all of that. I don't think you need that first, you know.
Well, I don't think it's make Superman cool. I think it's just
No, I mean to the audience though.
Yeah.
I just mean making like reminding people like why that character is needed in you know, in fiction again and all of that. I think you can do that just by telling a regular Superman story in something akin to the present day. I don't think you need to get that like obvious and in the audience's face with it. And also, I've seen that done to death in comics, and I've seen it done well. I don't need it again. You know what I mean? Like, I personally hope that's not what it is. Again, that's a fine sequel. I just don't want to introduce him with it. Like, I'm really sick of deconstruction. Just me, and again, this is me, you know, watching superhero movies and talking about them for a living for 14 years. I'm really sick of the deconstruction thing, and I'm ready to. I was just hoping that in rebooting, the start of this would be getting back to brass tacks of superheroes before we start breaking the whole concept down again. And if we do that, we're starting with break the concept down again.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I don't know. I'm cool either way. I'm fine with them doing that or them doing something else. I'm just interested to see what they do.
You just need to open it with Superman is flying around saving people. You know? I don't mean it shouldn't be about anything. I mean, that would be really weird coming from me. Like, I get that. And I expect Gunn to do some kind of social commentary thing, of course. But, I don't know. You know, weird way, that seems like the obvious way to go. And also, I just don't want the Authority in our first Superman movie. Like, I don't care about that. I just don't want that. I was bummed when they announced their movie. Like, don't start everything with that. Like, put that down the line, you know? Start with more classic stuff.
I don't know. I'm just glad they're making things that people want to make.
Well, sure, but that doesn't mean I can't have opinions about it.
No, I know. I'm just like, cool. You wanted to make an Authority movie. Yeah. I don't care about the Authority, but maybe they'll make me care.
MP had a $10 super chat. Thanks a lot, man. He says, based on these castings, I could see the Giffen DeMatteis JLI being the established team, like post-Crisis, where Superman isn't a member or founder. Perhaps eventually it reforms in a Morrison-era JLA. Yeah, that's a good call. I actually really like the idea of... It'd be somewhere in between what you said and what a lot of people probably would assume, which is we're going to have to watch, once again, a Justice League form. Surely you're going to be in a universe, even if you don't have the Justice League yet, where we've had superhero teams. And so you go, we've had this Justice Other thing, and now we're going to form the Justice League, or whatever it is. But yeah, starting with a JLI or having... I also think that you're likely to have, you know, a JSA in like a, you know, golden era of superheroes from eons ago that we don't have to be surprised by later, that we'll just know about from the beginning. Well,
they should greenlight a JSA show that's like an old serial thing.
That's a cool idea. Put it in black and white, too.
Exactly. Do it.
That'd be awesome.
Gun, you coward.
Do it. Make a show in black and white. And don't do it like WandaVision, where you gotta pedal backwards 3 episodes in and go, it actually looks like an MCU thing now.
No, I want it where Jay Garrick is running, and then that's what like brings out the color.
Speaking of that, I mentioned to you off camera the other day that I think it's very likely that Michael Rosenbaum gets cast as something somewhere. eventually, and especially after the success of the podcast that he did with Gunn, because everybody's been talking about that. And Rosenbaum's podcast, by the way, is always really good, and he and Gunn have been friends for years. So if Gunn was going to do any podcast, it was going to be that one, and I'm glad that he did. He said that's the only one he's doing for the foreseeable future. But he made a big deal out of how he thinks, like a lot of us, Rosenbaum was the best Lex Luthor, and you could kind of tell that Rosenbaum was really hoping that he'd cast him somewhere. And then Austin suggested, and I don't know if he was joking or not, that he should get Jay Garrick.
I was joking.
But I can kind of see it, though.
No, the reason I said
he said Jay Garrick. I can kind of see it.
The reason I said that is because Fillions voiced Hal so many times, and he was cast as Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
He voiced Wally West in the DCAU.
Right.
So he would be Jay Garrick.
No, I can kind of see it.
I feel like if he gets a role, it'll probably be something really small.
Yeah.
Like what he did with Guardians. Maybe he'll get more dialogue.
I think it'll be bigger than that. I think you'll be able to tell who it is.
Yeah,
I hate that. It doesn't matter that it's Rosenbaum.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people, like, not believe me when I tell them that's who that is.
I just, like, every time I see him in that movie, I flash back to that weird rumor that Rosenbaum was going to be playing Silver Surfer in Guardians 2. I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yeah.
And Stallone would be Galactus, which is maybe the best casting choice.
But of course that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course people believe or came up with that, because if somebody you've heard of is in a movie, surely it's going to be also a major character you've heard of, and it's going to be, and like, not these days, and not with Gunn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the last thing anybody would expected was King Shark.
Yeah, but imagine Galactus like grabbing Saturn and being like, "Nom nom," when eating it. It'd be amazing.
No, Sly Stallone as Galactus is at least as good of an idea as George Takei as Galactus was.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Which was wonderful, by the way. Robert Wild, $2 super chat. Bring back the Superman mullet. I mean, if you ever did, and I've gone on record to say that I don't care about this anymore, but the only time long-haired Superman is ever really going to make any sense is just as a nostalgia thing with Death of Superman. So, like, if you're not doing any of that iconography, there's not really any reason to do long-haired Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see us going to that, but maybe. I think I said in a video a while back that I feel like if we do Death of Superman in the DCU, Gunn's more likely to go to his death in All-Star than the 90s series.
Yeah. No, I think you're right about that. And part of that's just because it's been done to death, and it's never been done well. But, like, that's still all we're doing on TV. Like, I haven't watched the second or third or any of the third season yet of Superman and Lois. I just haven't gotten around to it, but I will. But, like, apparently, spoilers for that, but I saw a video earlier today. I didn't watch it, but they're still doing Doomsday stuff in third season of that.
Have you seen his design? It's rough. It's maybe the worst Doomsday design.
I don't know. It's pretty rough in Krypton.
Yeah.
But, like, Krypton did it, and Smallville did it, and Supergirl did a lot of Death of Superman stuff, and, like, we just can't get away from it.
And, of course, the last series, like, the last movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I don't even know if we'll see a Doomsday. I don't know.
Again, I don't care about Doomsday unless you're...
Yeah, I don't either.
I just don't know what the point of doing that is, unless you make it a really interesting part of the Krypton lore, which you can, or even make it part of another speed. I mean, yeah, there's other stuff you could potentially do with Doomsday, but I'm not sure anybody's gonna want to do that character unless they're doing Death of Superman. You know what I mean? Like, most people aren't. Yeah, even writers are like, yeah, let's do Doomsday things, unless they're calling back to that. And usually that's just to sell idiots like me that used to buy everything Death of Superman, more comics.
Yeah, Doomsday is not even a character. He's just like a giant monster.
Initially, yes. And then we do more interesting background lore stuff with him So it's never really about the character of Doomsday so much as the idea of uh building a biological weapon that cannot die.
Hmm.
You can do some cool stuff with that if you made it about his background in the first place, or even in present day, you have some species building a doomsday. I guess. I mean, there's stuff you could do with it, because the whole idea is, it's like a genetically engineered monster that you keep, killing over and over again, and then reviving, and every time he comes back, he can't be killed by that thing again, and that's why he can't die eventually, and you just and like that's kind of a scary idea. It's kind of a terrifying image, and so there's stuff you could do with that. But these days, it's almost always Kryptonian in origin, but it didn't used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like found in a mine or something, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, later on, we did follow-up stuff where we gave him a backstory, and he wasn't from Krypton. It was from a different planet.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Is what I'm trying to say. But, like, you wouldn't get any of that just from reading Death of Superman, because it was a mystery where he came from.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
MP 499 super chat. Thanks, man. I could see DCU Batman being about 37 and started his career in his early 20s, making him active 14, 15 years. Plenty of time for most of his canon history. I don't think that will happen, because I don't think we'll do the same thing we did in the DCEU, where Batman's been around a lot longer than Superman. I really don't see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he will be... I mean, I guess I can see 37, but like as like the highest we'll go. I feel like he'll be like around where Superman is to like 35 is where I'm gonna guess.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say they're gonna be almost the same age. Because again, all you gotta do say Batman's been around for 5 or 6 years, and he's just had a lot of things happen to him in that time period. It's always silly when we do that, but I can see it to some degree. Because the thing you have to remember is, typically we have Batman go off training like right after high school, right? Like, does he even go to college?
Yeah, so like if he does that at 17, 18, and then let's say he comes back and he's Batman at like 24, and he's like 32.
He's had a 7-8 year history as Batman.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, like I will be shocked if Damian is not conceived during his training period, and that's just what they say in that movie.
Oh, sure. So well, let me ask this. We can just kind of talk back and forth about both of these movies.
Yeah.
And like anything else you want to talk about, but right now these are the projects we know the most about. Because we finally have a director for Brave and the Bold. I don't know that there's much else that we're gonna have to bring to the table, except for maybe like lanterns and stuff. Because now I'm like, oh, okay, so filling him will almost certainly be in that show.
Yeah, well, there's rumored creators for the Authority and Lanterns. We don't know for sure yet, so it's like they're just up in the air. But Brave and the Bold and Swamp Thing are the only other two that have directors.
Yeah. But anyway, so let me ask you this then about Brave and the Bold, since you mentioned the Damian thing. So revisiting that whole idea, because I hadn't really had that thought that like maybe he's gestating like all the way back, like as Bruce even is becoming Batman or something. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, like I think it could be like, Bruce goes off to do his training, and that's when he meets Talia. Like, yeah, Damian could be conceived when Batman's like 19, 20, like like around that age, while he's just traveling the world, and then he's like 32ish, and boom, he's got like an 8-year-old, 10-year-old kid.
Well, and usually, I say usually, I mean in the comics, because we want to make him old enough to be a Robin right away. He can't just be he can't just be conceived naturally. It's got to be like a pseudo clone thing. I would love it if in the movies he finally is just conceived naturally. I mean, that'd be great.
No, it would be super easy to do, and he could come back, have 2-3 years on his own, then he gets a dick for like 2 years maybe, and then Dick becomes Nightwing, and then he could have, I don't know, Tim Drake for like 2 years, and then we're at where we are now.
Well, that's the question I was going to ask you: is how much of that history with Robins you thought we would do? Because
it's so hard to say.
Yeah, well, our big question when the announcements happened, and my big initial disappointment was, oh, I don't want to do Damian first, and then I thought, well, I guess we don't know for sure. And what I meant by that was I assumed initially, like I think a lot of
he
people
would just
did,
be the only Robin.
Oh, Damian's just Robin. Okay, we're just gonna jump ahead, and that's what we're doing. Okay, like maybe you've got a Nightwing, but that'd be about it. I understand. I'm open-minded. It doesn't have to be exactly comic history. That's super convoluted. It probably shouldn't be that. You're going to have to truncate this down some. I don't need them to say, and spoiler was Robin for 5 seconds, and here's this Duke guy who's not a Robin but is sort of like a Robin. Like, I don't need all of that.
And we have Batwing.
Here's Harper Row running around. Like, I don't need all that.
6 Batgirls in.
Catch up,
Huntress
kids!
was his daughter, but then wasn't. That turned out to be a different world. I feel like Dick Grayson's like a guarantee, I think, and like it's Tim Drake and Jason Todd. I could see going either way. I
honestly
don't know.
thought before Brave and the Bold was announced that there was a chance that the first Batman project in this universe was just Nightwing because people have wanted it forever. I was kind of sitting there waiting for James Gunn to go, and then our next project is Nightwing!
Well, and so many of us, like you and I included, didn't think that they would just do solo Batman movies. Like, we assumed he would be a supporting role.
Well, and I mean, they're not. It'll be a team thing, but I didn't think he'd get a movie right away.
Yeah. Well, it is like a solo Batman thing in the same way that you can say, like, Batman Forever is a solo Batman. Like, yeah, he's got Robin, but it's not, like, a team-up in that.
No, but the movie's called Brave and the Bold. That's immediately a team thing. Like,
oh, for sure, but I think they just said Brave and the Bold because it was an open title.
Ooh, I don't. That immediately suggests to me that that's a big ensemble cast movie. Is that the assumption you're making? I think that's going to be like...
It'll just be the Bat Family.
Say it again.
I think it will be, but it'll just be the Bat Family.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm not suggesting that it'll necessarily be Batman and a bunch of like C-list characters like it usually is. Or not necessarily C-list, but like just, smaller, more obscure characters.
I guess
but it could still be that because this is Gum we're talking. He's not going to make the movie, but I could see him conceptualizing it that way.
I mean, I guess I should put an asterisk on solo Batman movie because when I say that, it's like he'll have the Bat Family, but that's like I just mean solo Batman in that it's not like Superman and Wonder Woman or like whoever will show up. Like it's Batman and the Bat Family.
And I didn't mean to quibble over semantics. I didn't think we would get Batman right away at all. We had that question of how in the background is he going to be? Are we even going to cast him in the first leg? Like, oh, just right away he's got a movie. Okay, cool. But yeah, I think that will be a pretty ensemble piece.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, definitely.
More so than the Superman thing.
I was just shocked that we got like a Batman movie. Like I figured he would just be like, Justice League supporting character.
No, I'm being a jerk.
You are. Get off my back, old man.
Quibbling over your word choice. I'm just saying it's not. I don't know. Sometimes I kind of take the audience role where I'm like, I just know what all the comments are gonna be. It's good. That's not a solo movie. It's a Brave and the Bold.
Robin doesn't count as a person. It's a solo Batman movie.
Hey, can I give you a big left field question?
Yeah.
I want to get away from the DCU itself for a second.
Okie dokie.
And I want to ask you your prediction for... I guess it's hard to say until movies start coming out and we see how they're performing. But let me put it like this. And also, the big elephant in the room with all of this, of course, is writer's strike and then probably impending right now Actors Guild strike. we don't know when a lot of this stuff is even going to be able to start getting made. Like, we've got casting happening right now for Superman Legacy, but if they can't get that all worked out within the next few months, they're not going to be shooting on time. And it's sounding very likely like Hollywood itself is going to shut down here pretty soon.
Well, we very narrowly missed a director's strike, too. We almost had all three of them at once.
I didn't know if that deadline had already passed.
It has. They did come to an agreement.
Okay, that's good. Because you sent me an article, and I was looking at that earlier. We had a thing from Deadline just in the last, 12 hours?
I think just yesterday.
Just yesterday, that is suggesting that Hollywood is not ready to make a deal with the Writers Guild at all, and they're gonna wait it out until the writers start losing their homes and stuff. Yeah, it all looks real bleak.
Yeah, no, that's rough. That's real rough.
So I do think I just thought it was important to bring that up to say, this could be, in its way, COVID all over again, where there could be some real sitting around waiting for projects to finally get made and then come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that could be good for the DCU, or just superhero movies in general. It just pump the brakes, and I think Superman, because it's already written, that will come out. But anything after that, we might get a year between them. Who knows what's going on? But it might be a really good thing to just be here's Superman, and then we're not immediately flooded with content after that.
Yeah, because I was exhausted just listening to the litany of the first half of projects coming out, where I was like, I'm more excited about this than I was anything with the DCEU. Because that fell apart for me very quickly. But God, this all just sounds exhausting. Just put out 1 or 2 movies in the first year and then start making stuff. Gradually get into, and then maybe they're going to be forced to do that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because I didn't have that, but I've had that with the last several MCU announcements, so I get that.
Yeah. Well, and, I don't mean to be, cynical and negative and stuff, but, I've just been kind of, overwhelmed with the sheer amount of this stuff for a long time, and for the last several years, more of it has been mediocre or just not really worth my time than anything. So, even if it's all good, I'm I just want a little bit of time away from some of this stuff, and this is me talking, superhero movies are kind of my thing, but...
Yeah. Well, I think with me with that Slate video was I just found his enthusiasm really infectious. So I was like, oh, I don't care about Booster Gold or the Authority, but you're really excited. So that makes me feel excited about it. And with stuff like that, I liked their shotgun approach, where it was oh, here, audience that might enjoy this, you can have this, and then you can have that. It doesn't necessarily have to be for everybody, so I'll probably give all of those shows a try, but I didn't feel I necessarily had to watch them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well they handle communication with all of that, because MCU has not done a good job of that since Endgame, especially.
Mm-hmm.
What even do you need, and if you get. Forget what the actual quality is. When you start to develop that reputation of you're a shadow of your former self, and then people don't know what they need to even understand whatever they decide to watch, that is potentially the kiss of death, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's good that they had meetings to kind of nail out what they wanted to do before they started greenlighting things. So it sounds like they actually have a plan. As much as we like to talk about the MCU's plan, they've never had a plan. So
this isn't remotely fair, and this probably would not have been the smart way in the grand scheme to get the ball rolling with all of this, but this is just me being selfish. I almost wish I could have just found out about these as they came out. You know what I mean? Instead of, here's our plan for the next few years. We're making a Superman movie. And then you can find out what we're making after that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked that. Here's my big question. Getting away from the DCU for just a second, and this is like, I have to make some assumptions to ask you this question. Let's say Superman Legacy, like performs at least as well as the Batman. You suggested off camera that you think it'll do at least that well. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I think it's at least 700 million.
See, we got to wait and see what a trailer looks like. We got to see what the enthusiasm looks like. But let's say it does $1 billion. Let's say it does even better than you're thinking. Let's say Superman Legacy makes $1 billion in like 5, 6, 7 weeks. Does Marvel seriously consider following suit and rebooting after that happens?
Well, and I think I asked you this a few weeks ago. We were talking about something. I can't remember.
Oh, I think you did ask me what I thought it would take for them to reboot. We did have that conversation.
So I feel like...
But do you think that could do it? Do you think their first movie being huge could make them rethink everything?
I think it depends on two things. It depends on Superman Legacy, and it depends on the next two Avengers movies. I think those are the two big things that will decide that.
Because right now, behind the closed doors, they have to be scrambling and rethinking their whole approach right now. They have to be going.
I hope so.
Yeah, you hope so, because it isn't just about Kang War. Like, is that what that movie's called?
Kang Dynasty.
It can't be. Sorry, everything's a war.
Everything is war.
It can't be just about Kang Dynasty. They've got to be a little bit worried about that. Like, we don't even know if we can shoot that with that actor right now. You know, yada yada. Nobody seems that excited about Kang. Yada yada yada. But even before that, they are Feige and all those guys. They are delusional if they're not freaking out about the Marvels. They're delusional if they think that movie's going to make money. And they've got to be this is just my opinion, they've got to be rethinking their whole thing after that. Like, we can't make stuff like this anymore. Like, nobody cares about what we're putting out right now.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes you wonder. And, like, we keep, like, throwing out characters, and then it's like, they'll show back up eventually. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
There. In the meantime, everybody's very quickly forgetting about them.
Like Moon Knight, I guess, will show up again at some point. She-Hulk, I guess.
There is.
I don't know.
There is.
Eternals.
And this is not me picking sides, okay? I'm not, like, just especially, we've got a decent crowd right now, especially for folks that, like, haven't watched us.
I'm more of a Marvel person.
Yeah, and... Yeah, I used to be very, very invested in the MCU, and there were a couple of projects over the last year or two that I was excited about, and they've come out now. And moving forward, I got nothing, you know? Like, I'm not stoked for anything, and the stuff that I'm curious about is not even in pre-production yet, or is in very early pre-production, right? Like, we don't know anything about FF yet. We don't know what they're doing with X-Men yet. Like, I guess... of things that are actually getting put together, the closest thing to like interest and anticipation I have is Deadpool 3, and I'm like nervous about that. Like, I don't know, you know, I don't know how stoked I am for that, but I at least like those movies well enough. You know, I'm not immediately jazzed about bringing Hugh Jackman back, because I'm very much of the camp that's like, we wrote him out the right way. I kind of didn't need to see that again, and I'm well past being over with bring back stuff from a bunch of old movies that you've seen before, and it looks like that's going to be that movie with Fox X-Men. Like, I'm done with Fox X-Men, guys. Like, I don't need a cap off for that. Just leave it behind now. It's fine. I can pretend like Days of Future Past and Logan were the real cap offs to that, and never think about the crap they made after that. I'm fine with that's fine. But that's the closest to any kind of anticipation I have about MCU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, for folks that hadn't really listened to us before, I'm not picking sides. I don't want to see the MCU, you know, suck and fail now that we might be getting good DC stuff. Obviously, I want them both to be great, but I have not cared in a while over for the most part. Sometimes people will come out and be like, "Oh, but Guardians 3 was good." Yeah, that was that's almost like an isolated project, right?
And Guardians 3 is more of a, oh hey, DC is about to really pick up.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that doesn't say anything about Marvel to me.
If Gunn had taken Feige's job, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then I would be making a real big deal out of how great Guardians 3 was. But like the guy that made it is moving across town.
It would be much easier to say, oh man, Guardians 3 was good. The MCU can still hit it out of the park. Instead of right now, it's like, oh, Guardians 3 is really good. And Marvel just lost their best writer.
Yeah.
He's now the head of DC.
Yeah, and the other things, a lot of the things that I've liked have been kind of isolated cases where they either didn't perform well enough and we're not going to get more of that kind of thing, or
it's stuff that we're in.
It's a vestige of, or it's a, what's the word I'm looking for, or it's kind of a relic of another time, sort of, right? Like Guardians 3 is not indicative of their way forward, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I wish it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, and there's certain things, like you and I are like the only people that like Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
And,
no, I did really like that.
And there's like that part of me that's like, oh, well, if Sam Raimi comes back for a third one, like that would be cool. But I'd also like to see him go either do original stuff, which is my number one thing I'd rather see.
Yeah.
But like, I'm also like, I'd like to see him do something at DC. That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with any of that. I mean,
I just like Raimi, so I'm good with whatever. But
like, I would like to see guys like that making more stuff for MCU, just because they need directors, and
yeah, you're right,
like actual directors. And the fact that I totally cool if you hated that movie. I know a lot of people did, but it's impressive to me that he was able to come in at the 11th hour and put together something that was as cohesive as that was.
Mm-hmm. No, that is like
that,
a hugely
that took a guy who
film.
knows how to tell a story.
Mm-hmm. No, it is like a hugely compromised film, but he comes in and he makes something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, and this is not me like saying, going in, I knew how compromised it was, so I liked that movie. Like, I actually didn't know that, and when I found out later, like, I liked it first time out, and when I found out, like, I got issues with it, but overall I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah.
The biggest surprise for me was, sorry, we're just talking about Marvel now. The biggest surprise to me is they made me care about America Chavez, who I've never liked. And I've never cared about. And I thought she was a really cool character. And I was like, oh my god, you made
one of those characters that's in the void.
Yeah, maybe we'll never see her again. I don't know.
Her and Clea.
No, I'm gonna assume that she has to be a big part of Kang Dynasty, because if they're gonna make that like the big end of the multiverse saga, she's got the power she has. She's got to be a big part of that movie, I would think. But
yeah, absolutely.
What point am I making with all of this? I was just gonna say earlier that the only place, to your point of all these characters that we threw out and we just haven't really done anything with, and I think people are probably forgetting, the place I'm seeing characters like Shang-Chi the most right now is in $5 bins at big box stores and stuff, like
my nightmares.
Like, I'll go.
Works.
No, I was just gonna say clearance bins.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word I was looking for. I'll go to a mall and you go to a pop culture store and it's just clearance bins of like Eternals and Shang-Chi and.
Yep. You're not wrong.
That's where they pop up. And I'm like, I forgot about that movie. Here it is in the void of merchandise nobody bought, but they still have mountains of.
Well, and the Shang-Chi director, they like a lot, I guess, because he's doing Wonder Man and Kang Dynasty, and possibly Shang-Chi too. Who knows with that?
Do you think that movie even gets made at this point?
I mean, I hope not.
The big thing I want... I'm sorry, I'm looking at... I'll go ahead and get these super chats knocked out in a second.
Yeah.
Go back to Raimi, and I probably said this before, but the big thing I want is Raimi to make the next Spider-Man, just because I think that would be kind of a crazy, kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't think he wants to do that, but that would be cool.
Probably not, but I just think it would be so interesting to see his style, and like maybe he would do something very different with it, in a fourth Spider-Man movie that was ironically not multiversal at all.
Well,
that'd be
and
great.
I guess to knock us back on track.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was the director I was really, really hoping would get Batman, and then didn't.
Yeah.
Whatever, but that would have been cool.
Yeah, and I guess we should talk a little bit about that, and if we have any new, speculation or assumptions about that movie based on that director. But let me go ahead and read super chats, and then we can try to get back to that. MP puts in another $9.99 super chat. I really appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. I think Nightwing is a must. I think Jason's death is too important to Batman's history not to have. Let's take each of these one at a time, shall we? I'll read these, and then we'll go through them. I think Babs is already Oracle. Pardon me, Tim may or may not exist, and Robbins and Babs are the important ones. Okay, this is some great stuff to sink our teeth into, so let's go one at a time. Nightwing is a must.
100%.
I agree. 100%.
Agreed.
I think Jason's death is too important to Batman's history not to have. I don't know.
I don't know either, so I could see it. I could also see them avoiding that as being like a big thing, because BVS has that. But also I don't see Gunn doing a lot of the like, oh, well, somebody else did this, we have to not do it. So like if it works for the story, then possibly. It would be really interesting if we had a Batman who doesn't want to have a Robin again because of Jason Todd, and then he has his son that he just meets, and then his son wants to be Robin. That's an interesting take.
It feels
I just hope they don't do Red Hood. I just don't want them to do that.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. So when we first found out that they were doing Brave and the Bold and that it was going to be Damian, my initial instinct was we've got to really truncate the history of Robin. Well, my first instinct was don't do Damian first, but I don't think they're going to do that. So I figured we would have to really truncate it, and it would just be a whole lot of exposition and baggage. Now, he's not making that movie, but if anybody can help somebody figure out how to navigate all of that, it's going to be James Gunn, certainly. But you're telling me that you're going to have a movie where you're gonna say, well, he used to have a Robin, he's gone off on his own now, he's his own superhero, he's Nightwing, and then there was this Jason Todd kid, and he got killed by the Joker, and Batman blames himself for it, and then you have Tim Drake, who kind of wins his way in and becomes another Robin, and then he's not around anymore for some reason, and then like on and on and on. I don't think you're gonna have that a whole history. Probably. So like if you're opening with Damian, you give a really good kind of setup for how it could work. But my initial instinct is if you're starting this whole thing with Damian Wayne, Jason Todd's not going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like Jason and Tim are both like up in the air. I could see it going either way, because I also think
there's also a lot of precedent for combining those two characters together.
100%. And if you did have a Tim, it would be easy to just make him Red Robin. Like there is at least a name that you could give him.
Please. Because I love Red Robin. I love the Red
Robin.
Oh,
I think you're saying please don't.
No, I'm saying
okay.
I'm saying could I have that with a, if Gunn had said, if he got all left field in his in his list of movies and was like, okay, I can't wait to tell you about this next one, it's Red Robin, I would have lost my mind, man.
What if he just went full Shang-Chi and it was called Batman and the Legend of the 12 Robins? Or the 10 Robins, sorry. It's 10
That's
rings.
so good. If it was 12 Robins, it'd be a Christmas movie. It'd be like on the second day of Christmas. Well, Batman gave to me.
If it were 13 Robins, it could be like The Hobbit.
I thought you were going gonna go to like 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
That too, yeah.
It could be a Scooby-Doo movie.
Batman and the Seven Robins. You could do a Snow White thing.
Hey, there's a lot of precedent for Batman and Scooby-Doo.
There is. And if there's anybody that would give us a live-action Batman meets Scooby-Doo, it's James Gunn.
It's James Gunn. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's what he's going to set up with Krypto when Krypto invariably shows up in his Superman movie.
You think you're the only special dog out there?
Yeah.
Jinkies.
You think you're the only special dog? And no, we're not talking about Black Adam's dog.
No.
That's not
no
in there.
one cares.
Yeah, except you and I spent entirely too long doing a podcast on that movie.
That is true. That is true.
Can you believe we did that?
That was waste your time Volution.
It really was, yeah. But that's on the channel if you ever want to listen to us talk about Super Pets for was that a 2-hour discussion? I think we went 2 hours on that.
God, I hope not.
I think we did, though. Oh, man. And even that feels like a real different time now.
But yeah, I feel like if you had Tim and Jason, Tim and Dick there, you could have like at least a scene maybe where you can have the three Robins kind of talking to each other, and then maybe you could be like, oh, and then there was also Jason, but he doesn't talk about that, or something like that. Like, there is ways to do it.
Yeah. I can totally see why MP is saying that his death is too important not to have it, but I would.
And I love Starlin Batman, so
I would probably go along with that if I hadn't seen things like the DCAU avoid it to great results still. You know what I mean? Like, I think you can get around it. I don't think you have to use it. That's not me saying that I don't want it necessarily. I mean, you also can have. I'm just saying that you wouldn't necessarily have to have that.
Yeah, no, like I said with both of them, I could see it going either way. I'm also fine either way. Like, I don't have a giant opinion on it. Tim's probably my favorite Robin, but
Mine too.
It's not like if they skip it, it's not the biggest deal to me. I'm like, whatever.
To be fair, also with DCAU, because you and I did that commentary together for the Batman Beyond movie. One of the reasons that they kind of get away with not doing that is they sort of do it with Batman Beyond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because they kind of give Tim Drake weirdly a Jason Todd ending, at least for his Robin career. So
when DCU, I guess, did that with Dick, Snyder retroactively decided.
I guess, sure.
Yeah.
And then he says, I think Babs is already Oracle. That is wishful thinking on your and my part. I hope you're right about that.
I hope you're right. That's another thing I could see going either way, but James Gunn is a really, really big fan of Cassandra Cain, so I think it's probably more likely that she's Oracle.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. And then we can jump into his favorite Batgirl.
Yep. And I'm a huge Cassandra Cain fan, too, so, like, I hope that's what he does.
Well,
and also...
what I like with Barbara, so yeah.
Well, and these things so often have, like, the guy in the chair or whatever. Like, how easy would it be to just use Oracle across a lot of different movies?
Mm-hmm.
As that. Yeah. And of course the comics have done that a lot too. Like, she shows up everywhere to help people figure out mysteries and where to go and hacking into
Suicide Squad.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, yeah, I mean, she's introduced in Suicide Squad. Like, there is a precedent to have her jump around.
So
tomorrow we'll get casting news about Oracle.
Oh boy. Legacy. I hope so. If what would be really cool is if he went full tilt late 80s, early 90s, and in the first time we see her, she is just an icon on a screen. Like, we don't even have her yet. You just play it as a mystery, and like most of the audience is going to know that that's Barbara Gordon. But it'd be cool if they played it like a mystery, and even in that first movie, you don't see her face. Like, she's just that image with like the the weird head and the like squiggly. Yeah, it'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they do in Ostrander, and there's this like great moment where the first time you see it, Flo, who's like talking to Oracle, is like holding a Batgirl plushie while she's talking to it.
Yeah.
And you don't find that out until like issues and issues later, but like clearly the plan.
Yeah, plushies are a weird thing in Birds of Prey that comes up a lot. She's got like a Batman plushie on her desk all the time. And then he says Tim may or may not exist. We kind of talked about that. And then he says Robin and Babs are the important ones.
I agree.
I mean, we'll have her in some capacity. I hope you're right, though. I hope it is Oracle. Claudio Moran. Sorry, did you have something else to say about that?
No, I was going to say I'm more of a Batgirl than Robin guy, so I agree. Agreed.
I actually am too. Yeah, that's weird. We're the minority with that too. I mean, there's still a big contingent of Robin fans that don't care about Batman, that just like Robin, and I've never had that.
Well, okay. What would you do, Kev? This is like the real question.
Yeah.
Is tomorrow we get the casting choice of Oracle, but it's like, you know, whatever actress is cast as Barbara Pennyworth. What is your reaction in that moment?
I checked the calendar and make sure it wasn't April Fool's Day somehow. Barbara Pennyworth.
Uncle Alfred, it's me.
Yeah, that happened. No, the big thing that I'm excited about with all of this is that more and more it's looking like, obviously you tweak things with adaptation and you update things where you have to and all of that. You're never going to have like perfectly your favorite period in comics put on the big screen throughout a whole shared universe. It would be preposterous to expect that or really want that. At the same time, early MCU, and I'd say, for my money, at least the first couple of phases, more or less, obviously there's changes and there have to be, but like more or less felt very authentic to a lot of what I like about Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Where
yeah, for sure.
It felt definitive enough, you know? We were at least 75-80% of the way there. And even if... And even going all the way through Endgame, a lot of it continued to be that way. Eventually you'd get weird things like, Hank Pym didn't make Ultron, okay. You know, it's stuff like that. But like, like
Ant-Man in general, that's more of an issue of a behind the scenes thing.
Right. But I was just gonna say, I was just using that as the first example I thought of, or like the weirdness that happens with the evolution, the kind of forced evolution of Hulk and all of that, like, and then we don't get Fantastic Four right away. It's kind of weird having an MCU or having a Marvel universe without Silver Surfer, but with so much of the rest of the cool cosmic stuff that Gunn's doing in Guardians. But like, Guardians is a really good encapsulation of what works so well for, especially me as a comic fan, with the MCU, which is, even if he is changing characters and tweaking stuff and it's not, you know, exactly what the, like Abnett Lanning run was, with Guardians, the spirit of it is right. It feels authentic. It feels definitive. If this is the only version of these characters we ever get, and you came to become a Guardians fan because of it, and you never read comics, you still came by it really honestly. You know what I mean? Like, you are still, and this isn't me being, and I'm not trying to be prudish about it. I'm saying that, like, I'm not saying if you never read comics, you're not really a fan of those characters. I'm saying that if you never thought to read comics and you said, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a fair amount that you love about that is intact from what was there in the comics. Like, you like a lot of the things that the comic fans like about that. And that's true of Marvel in general, really up through Endgame, but especially those first couple of phases, right? The point I'm trying to make is, it looks like we may finally get there with DC, and it only took 20 years or whatever. Like you know, it's kind of ridiculous. Like how long it's taken from when we almost did shared universes, and then we finally got one. And this was always my big kind of argument with the Snyder crowd is, even if you love his take on all of that, it just feels Elseworlds. It just feels like a real out there alternate universe kind of thing when we never got the basics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's Gunn's biggest strength as a comic book adapter, is even though he like reinvents a lot of stuff, he tends to just kind of like boil things down to what they are at their core, and like that is what he represents more so than specific moments and storylines. It's just like, here is the core of this as a property.
Well,
Here
and
you
that's
go.
and I think you want that more than adapting anything directly off the page. And don't get me wrong, if those guys decide to take a really great comic story and more or less just represent it on the screen, more power to them. I would like that with certain stories as well.
When we
But
met with Supergirl.
yeah, right. But as a comic fan, yeah, I mean, I don't know how close that'll be to that story, but you're
Yeah.
right. I wasn't really thinking about that in the moment, but you're right. Like with his Guardians movies, he's never really doing that. He's never going. He's taking elements from different things, but we never go. We're gonna straight up adapt this story to the screen. But like, you kind of want that as a comic fan, because then you get the best of both worlds, where it's authentic to what you love about it, but you can also be surprised. You can get invested in this version because you don't know where it's going.
Well, and his Suicide Squad is like the definitive Ostrander movie without adapting any specific story. It's just, it feels like that run boiled down into a movie.
Yeah, so you as a fan of that material still got to not know where it was all going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's another big thing that he does a lot, which is also part of why I could believe the Authority thing, is that the Guardians movies don't use any Guardians villains, and the Suicide Squad doesn't use any Suicide Squad villains.
Yeah. Well, he
It's
might
like
continue that trend with Superman if you're right, but I guess we'll
yeah.
see. $5 Canadian from Claudio Moran. Appreciate it. He says, I think Feige has too much emotional attachment to Raimi's Spider-Man and Fox X-Men because he worked on them. Arguably a problem if you reboot them. That's a really good call. And obviously, if he stays head of that studio, there's no way around. You're not going to get full-on new blood, but, he's not directing or writing those.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably the case for why we keep getting these nostalgia throwbacks. We'll see what Secret Wars looks like.
But that's also just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of just in right now, too. Like, but yeah, I mean, that probably is why he decided to, because I forgot that he was even there for the Raimi stuff.
Yeah,
I knew he was for Fox
X-Men.
X-Men and for some of that stuff, but
yeah, no, he's there for Spider-Man too. I don't know about Spider-Man 2, but Spider-Man as well.
eventually that'll be the new naming convention. It'll be Spider-Man as well.
Well, I mean, we're almost there. Spider-Man Home as well.
I don't know. We're gonna get this out of our system eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a little bit of that fear of losing too much of the audience by the time you finally get over all of that. Where there's definitely, I don't know, I realized that No Way Home was huge, but I don't know. Tell me what you think. Like, are general audiences just really more interested in that than I am for the long haul? Like, do they want a bunch more of that? It didn't work with Flash.
I don't know, because you and I talked about this off camera, but I feel like with the 89 stuff in Flash, it's like the core, like, general audience that's into the stuff is a little bit too young for the Keaton nostalgia stuff.
Yeah.
While they're like prime for the No Way Home nostalgia.
Yeah, but are they prime for the X-Men nostalgia?
Well, that's like right around the same time.
It's around the same time, but yeah, but here's what you got to remember, right? I was, in like junior high and high school when that stuff was coming out.
Yeah.
And I don't remember kids, like younger little kids, being as into the X-Men side as they were the Spider-Man side. Like,
that's fair.
I would have been real gung-ho about all of that even if I'd been 8, 9, 10, I am sure. But, like, at that point, in a weird way, that was already being sold to us a little bit like like a nostalgia thing. I mean, for those of us, nobody's going to agree with me when I say this, but hear me out. What I mean is, those of us that were kids during the 90s show were like the prime age to go spend money at the movie theater ourselves at that point, right? So even though the X-Men movies were very different from that show, it was like we'd grown up with it and now it was an adult thing. Spider-Man starts as very aimed at kids, and obviously it was a family thing, and you know, adults liked it as well. But I see the X-Men franchise as starting at like people care at 16, 17, 18.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So when we get into X-Men nostalgia, we're not going to be that far away from the age group that the 89 Batman's thing with Flash should have been sold to and wasn't. Like, the people that should have been coming out to droves for Michael Keaton's Batman weren't going to be excited about a trailer cut the way that was. Like, they're not going to care about that Flash movie. And yeah, it was sold real hard on Michael Keaton's Batman, but he didn't move or act like he did in those movies. It didn't look like that same world. So, like, my dad didn't care.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna say, because I was a kid during X-Men.
Sure.
Like, there was a ton of that. Like, X-Men was like the big thing. But also the big thing that X-Men does not have that Batman does is it doesn't have the Nolan thing, where I feel like the nostalgia would have worked a lot better if it wasn't for, we just had the Dark Knight trilogy, which is now what that kind of nostalgia I think has moved on towards, where people would have freaked out if Bale came back.
Yeah.
Because now the Keaton stuff became more of like, yeah, like those were like those like dumb Batman movies, like before we got like the real ones.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is fair, but
no, but that's the reputation for your generation on the whole with that. Yeah.
But that's like the big thing that X-Men doesn't have. And X-Men was still going up till, you know, with Wolverine specifically, you know, like 2017 with Logan, you know, that people still liked. And people were freaking out about the fact that he actually has the suit this time.
Yeah.
Even though it was like, obviously.
No, that's true. And also, like, different contexts and stuff, right? Like, I don't know. Deadpool is an easier sell because that already grabs you with multiple generations. Where, like...
Oh, and also... the MCU had already started and we were still getting that X-Men stuff. So there was, for like years of the MCU, people going, oh, but like imagine if Hugh Jackman was in the MCU.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So you also have that.
Yeah, no, it will certainly work in a way Flash didn't for really obvious reasons. I just, like, I don't expect it to do anything like what No Way Home did.
It won't, even just because it's R-rated, it won't make as much money as that.
I guess the reason I asked you about... Yeah, sorry, I'm just spinning my wheels with this, because I actually don't know how much interest there's going to be in, like I said, some of that Fox X-Men nostalgia. I feel like Hugh Jackman is like a category of his own, you know what I mean? Where, like, there was a time where he was just synonymous with X-Men. Mm-hmm. What about all the rest of it? Like, is anybody going to care about Jennifer Garner? And all of that?
I'm sure she will.
When I say Fox X-Men, I just mean like Fox everything. Like they're gonna shove other stuff in that, and
yeah, I think because everything about that movie, I'm like, I don't care. It's not even like this movie.
Yeah,
it's just like an indifference. The only thing where I was like, oh, that's maybe an interesting choice is. The set photo recently of Hugh Jackman and Deadpool on like a set with like a giant like apocalyptic Fox logo that's like buried into the ground halfway.
Yeah, that's weird. You told me about that. I didn't see that.
I'm like, that's possibly interesting. Like if we had them go to like a land of misfit Marvel characters world that's just the Fox world.
Yeah, and I like that kind of meta stuff, man.
That's what they should be doing with Deadpool. Like that was always one of the things I didn't really like about the first two. I was like, I don't know, you could do a lot more with this as a premise.
Yeah, because with those it was just he knows about production and that he's in a fictional universe for really no reason at all, and then they never really do anything with that. So yeah, they get real meta about it. Okay, I'm more intrigued after you said that.
Yeah, like it's possibly interesting. I don't know if it will be, but it's something.
Well,
I'm also
and also that potentially gives you a really good reason to have a bunch of other Fox characters show up, as opposed to like just doing it for the novelty of doing it. Like, I'll be a lot more excited about Jennifer Garner being there if they do a big meta thing with it, because it would just make sense to have more of those characters then.
Yeah, and you could possibly make fun of that. Have Deadpool fight Elektra on a ruined playground.
No, that'd be great. I was gonna say with bed sheets flying everywhere, but
no, they could be on.
Nobody's gonna remember that.
It's like, this is really stupid. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I would love the one reference to her movie being Deadpool not remembering that she got one.
Yeah.
That she even had a movie. It's, oh, that's right. They did spin you off. I forgot all about that.
She keeps referencing like this story that she was in, and he's just like, "What do you mean? Like, didn't you die?" I'm pretty sure you died.
I'm pretty sure you died. Nobody really even remember that you were alive, though. So,
That
Super
sounds like
Billy
straight to DVD. Are you sure it wasn't a straight to DVD sequel?
kind of looked a little bit like a direct-to-video movie. Super Billy, $2 super chat. The studio's callous ultimatum to WGA is a shame. Yeah, but not unexpected, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's Hollywood for you. The land of dreams. Yeah.
Tom Atkins, what do you think Krypton will be like in Legacy? We've talked about this a little bit on the Captain Logan show. I'm not sure, of course. I mean, it's really hard to say. I'm gonna the easy broad thing to assume is just it'll be very weird and very alien. The place that I would most want them to draw for inspiration from would be the animated series version.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like Super Burn.
Yep.
Yeah, when they first announced that title, my hope was that Brainiac would be the villain, and he would have been created by Krypton, just like that show. And your kind of legacy thing is Krypton's legacy is Clark is like their savior, you know what I mean? But like the last person that they sent off, and Brainiac, who is like the true legacy of Krypton, who like kind of is a thing that they built that destroyed them basically, while Clark is sent off, and his legacy is ultimately in Kansas and not Krypton, and Superman would have to destroy Brainiac as him kind of putting an end to Krypton by the end. That was my hope off that title when we first got it. I don't think that's what we're getting, but
no, I mean, it still could be something like that. I mean, just because it's got some other DC characters doesn't mean it won't be very Superman focused like that, I guess.
No, but I think it will be. And I mean, because people were complaining about that, I saw like right before we started on the show.
Yeah.
And Gunn responded and was like, no, this is a very Clark and Lois focused story.
Yeah.
But he said, I forget the exact quote, but it was like, I'm coming in to make a Superman movie, and I want to really showcase both sides of this world, which is Superman and his like costumed friends, and Clark, Lois, Jimmy, and Perry.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. So, no, I think we'll get like a fully rounded out Superman.
Well, even this far into superhero movie history, you're like mainstream moviegoers that don't read comics but like this kind of stuff and have watched a lot of it, are still in a lot of ways we've gotten closer with a lot of things, especially like the Suicide Squad and stuff. But like people still not real accustomed to like comic book storytelling and the way we juggle a lot of characters and go in and out of a lot of different kinds of like worlds and genres and mixed genres and stuff, right? So imagine I say that to say this, Austin. Imagine if you're a comic fan, and the way you found out about comics was the same as it often is in movies, where you got like a random list of characters first before you read an event or a graphic novel or something, and you're like, I mean, I thought this was supposed to be a superhero origin thing, but then freaking like Metamorpho is here, like, you know, what are these characters doing here? And if you saw that, if you had the experience that you and I have with comics, and you saw a list like that, you'd go, I'm sure that'll make sense at the end of the day, because, like, you know, random characters drop in and out of comics all the time. But we see with a movie, even me, it's hard for me not to look at that and go, I don't know, that seems like a big cast. You wouldn't say that with comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I just look at it and I go, okay, Fillion's not been like a major role in any of his movies since Slither, so like Guy Gardner will probably just be a cameo, or like maybe we'll get like 2 scenes at most. It's like I looked at that and was just like, these are all bit players that we're getting. People that they weren't as concerned about for like tons of auditioning, like, right, you know, the big players.
Well, and it makes sense. If you're right about that, it makes sense they all came out at the same time. That was done on a weekend going, okay, I need like...
The actor strike is about to happen. I got like 6 hours.
that too.
Here's Metamorpho.
But I was just going to say, he's, you know, that's a weekend project of like, each of these characters has 3 lines apiece. Let's call these guys up and see who wants to be in this movie.
Yeah. No, because I could also see it be like they are like a team, like, so they're also just like a group that he meets or something like that.
That could be like a Justice League International or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you take the characters we know about so far, none of them are weird on a team together, and that sounds like a very late 80s kind of team too. Like, it's not specifically any team we've had, but if it was like, it's Guy Gardner and Hawk Girl and Metamorpho, who's around a lot in late 80s stuff, and who else? Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, I could see that as absolutely Justice League International, Justice League.
Yeah, we could get like a couple more too. Like we could get like a Martian Manhunter.
I don't think that's going to be the end of it. Yeah, I'm with you. I think we'll see at least a couple more characters. I didn't even think about they're all together. I figured they'd be like interspersed throughout, or.
Oh yeah, that was my assumption, was that they would be like together in a scene or two.
Yeah, because I also hadn't had that thought that you did of like, well, we'll just do a scene at the beginning where they're all fighting some big thing.
That was like the big thing I wanted. I was like, that would be really fun.
It'll be Starro again. He'll be like, no, we rebooted. So this is a different Starro.
And he looks completely different.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
Robert Wild put in a $2 super chat and asked when we're doing Pirates 3. That's coming soon. We actually almost did it not too long ago, but that's on the docket probably, I don't know, Austin, like just before or just after Simpsons probably.
Yeah. It's in the timeline. It's on our slate.
We'll work that in sometime soon. Relatively soon.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Atkins wants to know if we think Mom and Pa Kent will be alive.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I could see that going anyway. One of them will, at least, but like, will they both at the beginning? Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going on the definitive yes.
You think so?
I think so. Especially because Gunn is so big into like the parenting stuff and like in his work. I think we will see a death of Pa Kent at some point.
I was going to say, if he has them both alive at the beginning, then it gives him, really good drama fodder for later. I can kill one of them.
Maybe Guy Gardner will kill Pa Kent this time.
He'll be under some sort of mind control, though, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's just a jerk because he's Guy Gardner.
That's how we'll introduce the Ultra Humanite.
Yeah, maybe Ultra Humanite will be the main villain.
I feel like there's no way around Ultra Humanite shows up sooner rather than later in this universe.
And he'll be Michael Rooker, and it will be awesome.
Oh, that's perfect. No, that would actually be really great.
No, it'll be perfect.
Beat Bop Boot put in a super chat and asks how Eric feels about Gunn's plans for DC. I don't know. I've not talked to him about it. Sorry, I can't give you any more than that.
He's probably excited because he is put Nathan Fillion into 8,000 different fan casts, so he's probably at least happy that Nathan Fillion is cast in something.
Yeah, if he's even keeping up, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking, but.
AMC, apparently there's a rumor Brendan Fraser will play Jonathan Kent, and Daniel Craig has been reportedly offered the role of Lex. That sounds very rumory to me.
I've heard that about Brendan Fraser. I've not heard that about Daniel Craig. That would be weird.
Yeah, that would be weird. I mean, I guess it could work. I would have never in a million years thought of it.
Mm-hmm. But I have heard that about Brendan Fraser, and I don't know, maybe.
I don't hate that. That's not terrible casting.
So yeah.
And I used to really not like Brendan Fraser. I've turned around on that a little bit.
That just makes me want Pa Kent to just look like the whale.
I knew you were going to say that.
Clark,
no, that's not terrible casting.
Get out of bed.
And it would continue this trend of. I mean, look, at this point, everybody's played a character in a superhero thing because there's so many superhero things. But that would certainly continue the trend of going to superhero TV and movies for characters, for actors playing different characters, because that's one of the main ways that Brendan Fraser got back into Hollywood was when he got cast in Doom Patrol.
Oh, that is not where I thought you were going.
Oh, what?
Because he was the main villain of Batgirl.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that, like, he's also been in a thing that got released.
Yeah, no,
recently.
I thought you were going with what you were saying at the beginning of the show about he's picking actors that have been in comic book things and being like, no, here's the role you should have had.
Yeah, this would be a case where he kind of makes sense for both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he was like one of the only things I was interested with in Batgirl.
Yeah, but I also meant like he was really good in his role in Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I still got to watch that show.
What little of that I've seen, but I liked the performance he was giving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been like a few little.
I was going to ask you about. Sorry, what was that?
I was gonna say there's been like a few DC rumors lately like that though. Like the I heard there was one about like a Rogues movie that was like a bank heist film, which could be interesting.
Yeah.
There was one about like a Korean revenge film, Huntress film, which I told you about.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they are making stuff like that, I mean, kudos on them on making different things. Like, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and risky stuff that's not going to appeal to everybody. It doesn't all have to. Just don't throw $200 million at everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Exactly. That Huntress movie, that is a $40 million movie tops.
That is like a $5 million movie.
Yeah, but it'd be great to see it made for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I was giving them more because I know they'll spend a little bit more than that on it. But DNA, I wanted to make sure we tackled this subject, Austin, so I'm glad it came up. Gunn says Legacy will be the start of DCU canon, but Waller and CC shows, I don't know what that means.
Creature Commandos.
Right, release first. Well, Creature Commandos is not DCEU.
Well, that comes out next year, so it is before Legacy.
He says, okay. But when he put out his like litany of titles, I thought he mentioned that like Legacy is like the true start or whatever, but Creature Commandos is still part of it, or is
so. It was like that weird thing where he like broke down everything that was already in development and then went, okay, here's like the real start in Superman.
Okay.
And Creature Commandos was before that. It was with Waller and Aquaman 2 and all of that.
Okay. Because I don't even know what characters are in that we've seen already, if any.
With that, so we have, I think it's just Weasel in terms of characters that we've already seen.
Oh, okay. So that will squarely be part of that continuity then.
Yeah, well, it's got Rick Flag Sr. So
okay.
Like, there will be like.
See, I didn't know all that. He says, but then those actors return in later DCU canon stories. Is this already too convoluted? Well, no, they won't though.
So, I could see them maybe like keeping some cast members, but it'll be like Judi Dench M, where it's like we brought the actor over, but like that continuity doesn't matter. Like it's wiped away.
I'm gonna go on a limb unless there's something that you're thinking of that I'm not, where we already like have precedent. This is definitely happening. I don't think he'll use any actors that we like. I think he'll recast Waller eventually.
Yeah. No, and I'm fine with that.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, I said when the slate came out that I was like pretty sure that Waller would be the end of that. And
I wish he'd made it clearer earlier that that was definitely what he was doing, because real early on, and I'll give you credit for this, you doubled down on no, we can take him literally at his word when he says Superman Legacy is the real start of the DCU and it's a full-on reboot and we're not cherry-picking and we're not keeping anything. But the reason that I wasn't prepared to full-on be sure about that is just that how easy would it have, like, why was he keeping it so ambiguous? How easy would it have been in that video where he lays the slate out to just say, this is this continuity, and then we've rebooted, and now there's this continuity. But he didn't talk about it like that. I get that he said Superman Legacy is the true start. What does that mean? It sounds like lingo. All he had to do is say, we had these projects already in development. We're not going to axe them because we already started them. And Waller, what he should have said is, Waller is the true end of the DCEU, and Superman Legacy is the start of the reboot. He didn't say that. So you couldn't be totally sure about it. And now, in a tweet to some confused guy, this week, he says the thing he should have said 3 months ago. Come on now.
Yeah, no, I was shocked that he said that while all those projects were still haven't come out yet. But I understand the like wishy-washy aspect, because there will be a contingency of people that will go, that doesn't matter. I'm not going to look at it.
But I'm saying this in hindsight, but now that he said it, he should have always said it.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
He didn't wait for any of that to come out, so he should have said it.
Flash bombs. So they're like, none of this matters.
Maybe so. Maybe so. But, I don't know. Call me pretentious or whatever, but it was pretty obvious to me that the correct strategy was to write all of that off and just hope that it makes you a few bucks back on the back end instead of being weird about it, because it's much smarter, I think, to try to gain new consumer confidence by like playing fair and leveling with everybody. I think. And it was just really obvious. This is where I say I don't mean to be pretentious, but it was really obvious to me that it wasn't gonna do anything but hurt you in the long run to like pretend that Flash was good. Like maybe he actually thinks that, but I still don't know. To pretend like that was gonna be this huge movie and all of that. Just write it all off. I don't mean don't still support it and try to get people to go see it, but like just play fair with everybody. Just say, yeah, this was part of the old guard. He's talked about all the mistakes the old guard has made, even. Like, just say, this is, we are full on rebooting. This is old stuff that we still have here that we're going to let everybody see and we're going to put out. Go see it. It's good. That's fine. But I just think, I'm just worried that it hurts them a little bit in the long run with people that are already kind of burnt out on some of this stuff. That was not the strategy, man. And it's not helping the box office.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like in a year or two, by the time Superman Legacy comes out, no one will remember that it was like a big deal about Flash, because that movie came and immediately went. Yeah. So like, I don't think it will really hurt them in the long run, but in the short term, yes. But I mean, I don't know. it's corporate politics.
Well, and it may not, but that's what I'm saying is, but we don't need those. It doesn't have to be like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's
like, you may be right, but by the same logic, if it doesn't, I don't know, if it doesn't even matter, just play it straight with everybody. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's corporate politics. I don't blame him for having to come out and being like, yeah, these last few movies we have are good. Maybe they matter. I don't know.
No, I blame whoever came up with that strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. It's whatever to me. I always saw through it. Like, I was like, I don't buy into this. Like you mentioned, when he goes, and now the real start of the DCU, I was like, oh, okay, so like none of that you just said mattered. But we need to pretend like it does.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is he's never really played those kind of games before, and until I had like real evidence that he was towing any kind of a company line, I was not going to make the assumption that he was ever saying anything that he was told to, or that he was going for any kind of corporate strategy like that. Because he was also, immediately after he got that job, saying things that would get most people fired.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to think that there was a chance that he could get away with not doing any of that kind of corporate politics stuff.
I think there's just like a difference between, the old regime messed up, and I don't like the movies that we currently have. You know what I mean? Like, it's I don't know. It's a delicate tightrope you have to walk, and I don't blame him for dying on the sword for 3 movies until he can actually reboot.
Yeah, I guess it was surreal seeing it come out of his mouth, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, we've always been arguing about whether or not he actually liked Flash. We'll never know for sure.
We'll never know that. Yeah, DNA, and I still say that there's a chance he does, because there are a lot of creators that are too good for material that they love, and that I'll never understand why they love them.
No, and I agree. The big thing is, you and I both read that podcast moment very differently, where he talks about how that movie's great. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah. DNA, Gunn already said today that the Blue Beetle film isn't canon, but that actor will play Blue Beetle in his DCU. Okay. If that's true, then there is already precedent for that.
Yeah, and he's said that about Margot Robbie in the past, but, like, who knows? That's why I say, like, there could be a few cast members that kind of get Judi Dench into it, where it's like, their past didn't matter, it's all rebooted away. But those actors we thought were perfect, and we kept them, and they still fit the role. And
I wish they weren't doing that at all, just because it would be a lot, you probably still would. I was going to say, maybe we wouldn't have to listen to people complain as hard about the Henry Cavill thing if they didn't do that, because any of that happens now, people that are upset about that are going to complain about double standards or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just think...
where it's like, well, you're keeping these actors, but you're changing their characters, so why couldn't you have done that with Cavill?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is silly. But like, I feel like with smaller characters like Harley or, I don't know, Peacemaker, I'm like, they're small enough characters, it's not a big deal.
Well, I would argue with Harley, it would probably be for the exact opposite reason, is that she's one of the only standout characters that people legitimately loved from that continuity. That is not a small character. You would hang on to her because people know her as Harley Quinn now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she also doesn't have like the big appeal and draw that people think that she does. Like, 2 of her movies bombed, and one of them with the Suicide Squad. There's like a whole thing that goes into that.
Yeah.
But like, Birds of Prey bombed really hard. The first Suicide Squad movie made money, but like a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of normies did like it though, so I don't know.
Yeah. But the thing you have to remember is that as much as I don't care for it, that look for that character became this like really cult iconic thing.
but it did in 2016, and then I feel like died off uh, as the years went by.
I still see it kind of a shocking amount. Like,
Possibly that could just be like a me thing of
yeah.
like not really seeing it, but I feel like that would.
I feel like that's one of the only like actual, however I feel about it, like iconic things that came out of the DCEU, regardless of what the numbers for the actual films were, because that's. That's a character in the middle of an ensemble cast, and it's hard to say how much of Suicide Squad's initial success had to do with her and how much of it was just back then. If the Joker's in a movie, oh my god,
it's just
and then people saw it
was damaged.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I definitely am fine with recasting everybody, but like,
yeah, I'd like to see her recast. I mean, I like Robbie Fine in that role, but I don't like her fundamental approach to the psychology of that character. I mean, like, of the version they did, she's good, but like, she doesn't see that character at all the way Gunn does, or the way I do.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that, but like, cause it's like I'm a hypocrite about certain things, I guess, and like I'm fine to admit that.
Oh, me too. I have felt that way this entire discussion.
Like if Cena comes back as Peacemaker, Stallone comes back as King Shark, like I don't know, I can't fault them. Like I like those characters, I like those castings. I'm fine with them coming back.
And then the whole sticky thing is, you don't even know how far away from the tone of, I mean, it's weird because it's through the lens of the Suicide Squad, but like the tone of the DCU now, like how far away from that it's gonna get from the Suicide Squad, even if that's not canon anymore, because it's Gunn behind the whole thing. You know what I mean? So like, it's technically DCEU, but it already felt like you were in kind of a different continuity.
Well, I think that's part of why I'm okay with some of that stuff sticking, is it was kind of already its own world that didn't fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, whatever. Just have Peacemaker be, because he's like a weird conspiracy theorist person in his TV show. Just have him be like, we were in a different world. No, we're not. I read about it on Reddit. It's true.
AMC wants to know what our ideal Justice League lineups for this universe would be.
Oh god, I'm so boring on this.
Yeah, so am I.
Because I'm not like an Avengers or Justice League person, so like my like vote on it's super boring, which is very traditional. It's like,
that's what
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, who I missed. It's I don't know, nothing interesting. I'm sorry.
I always want Manhunter there.
Yep, same here.
And then the Trinity usually, although there are cool makeups of teams that are, axing one or all three of them. So I mean, like, I don't know, I'm kind of okay with a team made up of any eclectic assortment of DC characters you want to do. Like, it's almost more about like power types and like sets of abilities and stuff all put together, and then you can draw cool like character dynamics from the specific psychologies of the characters, right? Like, you need at least one, close to Superman level, kind of godlike kind of guy, and then you need a human being with no powers that's really good at the tech side or the detective side or both. Somebody like that. And then you need a Green Lantern, probably, or at least somebody that's kind of in the cosmic, side of things.
And a woman.
And and your woman can be any of these things, maybe even a couple of those. That's always novel.
At least one. At least
one. But no, like I said, I always want a Martian Manhunter. I like Green Arrow.
I was gonna say
on the Justice League.
I feel like he's probably likely for the Justice League.
I would like to see that.
That would be cool. I think he'll be in Lanterns. We'll see, but I think he will be.
I hope so. You and I both were really holding out for Green Lantern, Green Arrow as a movie, and that's not happening. But we were really hoping for that.
Yeah, the next possible thing is I want Green Arrow, Black Canary as a movie. So just Gunn will do something with Green Arrow, and that I can be happy with.
Um, and then I just want a movie that's like red everything, like the villains red lanterns, and then
The heroes, Red Tornado.
yeah, you got a team that consists of Red Tornado and Red Hood, and then
What a weird assortment of reds.
it sure is, yeah. And then you have like who is it? Arsenal. Is that the same as Red Arrow? You got
Yes.
Red Arrow in there.
Yeah, it's Arsenal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other red DC characters.
I mean, I got 3.
Yeah, Red Robin,
Red Robin. Yeah.
and they can all eat at Red Robin.
Right.
And then also do a Justice League movie where the villains are all ice-based villains, and they're called the Just Ice League. That is also a thing you can do.
Robert Wilde says Cillian Murphy is The Question would be awesome. I can
That's an interesting
I can
choice.
see
Yeah.
that, yeah. MP says Rocket Red, the Soviet superhero.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, how did I forget about that? Austin, we're at 2 hours somehow.
That makes sense.
What? Why do you say that? Because it's us?
Because it's
or-
us.
Oh,
okay. Because we haven't talked about this.
I was gonna say, what aspects of either of these movies have we not covered enough, or like what can we predict about that we haven't predicted about yet?
What villains do you want for Brave and the Bold? Because Batman's completely overshadowed by his villains and everything.
Yeah.
What villains do you want for Brave and the Bold? / what do you think will be in it if they're different?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go for my stock answer and say Clock King, but
Of course, yeah. Michael Rooker is Clock King.
and of course, this is difficult because you got to kind of tiptoe around whatever the Batman universe is doing. Because like they won't do Clayface because we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Unless you just make it really different.
Yeah, which they could do, but
Yeah,
I
would
think that's
be shocked
unlikely.
if there isn't a Joker in both.
Oh, you think so?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. I guess I am looking at this project differently than you are. I
don't necessarily think that Joker will be in that movie. I just mean like we will have a Joker.
Oh yeah, no, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought you meant that the Joker would almost certainly be in both of those movies.
Oh no.
I thought that's what you said.
No, I just mean like I don't necessarily think that anything will be off the table like that. Like I could see both adapting Clayface and them both being very different.
That'd be cool. It would be kind of fun if they intentionally developed them together to use the exact same sets of characters, but did completely different things with them. They won't, but it'd be
Riddler's
fun.
the main villain of Brave and the Bold.
This is the one that you will sell coloring books to for kids, and finally we'll get away from all of that with the Batman. Wow, you guys made a Batman movie that has 0 Lego kits? I can't even believe that.
Oh man, are you telling me that I can't have a Lego set of the rat trap that I can put on my head? Curses!
Dude, they did everything right up to that, though. I keep, and I'm probably wrong about this, but for whatever reason in my head, I keep kind of stopping at the notion that Brave and the Bold is just a Batman movie. Like, I've got it in my head that
it won't be.
It's gonna be more than Batman. Yeah. That, like, I don't know that that whatever your main villain is in that movie is necessarily a Batman villain. It may not be.
Interesting.
That could be where they do Ultra Humanite.
I hope so.
You know what I want for Brave and the Bold? They will not do this. But, and I think we've maybe talked about this before, I have this, like, fantasy thing where I really want to see a Batman movie without Superman where his main villain is Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that.
We could have gotten that in BVS, but They dropped the ball.
That's a good point.
When that movie was coming out, I was like, oh, okay, so the climax will clearly be Superman and Wonder Woman fighting Doomsday while Batman goes off to find Lex Luthor, right? Like, that's the obvious place to go. Oh, no, Batman's just going to be dodging Doomsday? Okay.
Sorry, somebody just brought up Kite Man, and I know you'd just be so excited if it was Kite Man.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. I feel like Brave and the Bold's like, I think like guaranteed on who the villain will be, which is a character I said 100% I don't want when we did the Batman spoiler cast.
Okay.
Wow, which is Ra's al Ghul. I think 100% that's who the villain will be in that movie.
I think Ra's al Ghul has to be involved in some way if we're if we're introducing Damian there, and if it ends up being a big Damian story. I don't think that necessarily means that he's the main or the only villain.
No, and I'm sure there will be other villains, but I think he will be the main one, and we'll get like actual comic book Ra's al Ghul, where we get like the Lazarus Pit and all that. And it was the main thing
That's kind of the obvious thing. I should have said that, but... And
it's the main thing I wanted Sam Raimi for, because Sam Raimi would 100% do this. But shirtless Batman sword fighting Ra's al Ghul.
Yes, of course.
Like, yes.
He would just recreate that cover.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll get that now, but in my dreams. But yeah, like we have a really street level Batman with the Batman, so I'd like a more world adventure-y Batman for Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, and probably some kind of globe-trotty and...
Yeah, exactly. It would be cool to do a lot of that stuff. We've never really had like Nolan's the closest, but it's more of like globe-trotty and like a Bond way.
People in the comments are also talking about villains like Professor Pig and that kind of thing. There's the question as to how much of Morrison we're cribbing with that.
I think Professor Pig's more likely in the Reeves stuff than he is in the DCU, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I could see it either way.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know. I think in that announcement video, did he name drop Morrison? Because I think he was talking about like
he didn't.
I think he acted like they were kind of like directly adapting a lot from the Batman and Robin run. That was kind of the sense I got from it.
That's the picture they showed. I don't think he name drops it.
Or was I just thinking that because they showed that cover?
I think it was just the cover. I don't think he name dropped Morrison, but that's definitely something. Like he's definitely a creator they'll be looking at for that. So we could get Ninja Man bats, which would be awesome. But we probably won't. But do you think like we'll get a Catwoman in that? That's a big question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I said this is a speculation cast. I have no idea what to speculate about with this movie.
We're gonna have to do another Brave and the Bold one later.
Oh, absolutely, when we know anything.
Speculate about.
Well, what I wanted to do, we didn't really talk about this, but I wanted to see if you had any ideas just based on the director they went with. Like would you assume that it's probably pretty wacky?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't have enough of a sense of. Oh my god! Now I just lost his name. Andy
Muschietti. Yeah.
Because I haven't seen his first movie, which was like an original film, and then he picks up it. Like he's not the first creator that worked on that. Like he finished it for somebody else, and then It Chapter 2 is like a whole mess. And then The Flash is a whole mess. So, like, I don't really know where to grasp on anything. The big thing, though, with me with that is I guarantee that it is a big part of why he was hired, because he can work with child actors, and you're going to need that with Damian.
Yeah.
Like, there'll probably be some horror influence because of that. And then outside of that, I don't know.
Yeah, and that gives a lot of credence, though, to the idea that they might be taking more from Morrison than anything.
Possibly, but, like, Batman's always had, like, a horror element, so, like, you can kind of take it from anything.
Sure. But I'm just saying that might be why they're looking at specifically that run.
Yeah, no, that is possible.
I'm not saying that that's even like a super horror run, but there's there's a lot of like weird iconography and stuff in that.
Yeah, give me Killer Croc living in the sewer. Just have the opening of that movie be the opening of It, when Killer Croc eats a child.
I know with the Matt Reeves stuff, we've talked a lot about Hugo Strange. Is that a possibility for
That
this?
would be cool. Yeah, that would be really interesting.
I'm trying to allow myself to consider characters I've considered for Matt Reeves when we've speculated about that.
You could do like an Arkham City thing with that, where
That's
like Hugo
exactly what I was going to
Strange
pitch.
yeah.
Why not?
Not that storyline, but those two villains working together.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like more fantastical.
Yeah, he's saying. Sorry, I talked over Austin. He's saying with Ra's al Ghul and Hugo Strange.
Yeah,
they have kind of a team up in that video game.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of like more fantastical Batman villains that you could get in this world.
Well, one of the first things that came to mind when I was thinking the more kind of like I don't know, looking at Morrison, like psychedelic type stuff. I can see that movie going real psychedelic.
Well,
and that makes me go. Sorry, that makes me think. I don't know, Mad Hatter. Mad
Hatter would be cool.
We've never put a Mad Hatter on the screen.
I don't think we'll actually get this
on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go on the record. Gotham's Mad Hatter was great.
Oh, again, I haven't seen him.
They have a cool Mad Hatter.
One of the characters that almost made it into the Suicide Squad, and I'm guessing probably would have been in place of Starro, is the Rainbow Monster from Silver Age Batman.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's like there is a chance we could see him. I don't know.
Sure.
Get real weird.
Well, and somebody, because we were talking about Morrison, somebody brought up, of course, the Zur-En-Arr thing, which very much feels like something Gunn would maybe consider trying to put on screen.
Yeah, and I don't want Zur-En-Arr Batman like at all. But have that costume in it. I don't care.
Bob Garland says Man Bat would be decent for the DCU. See, that's another villain that I really, really want in Reeves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's so many villains where I'm like, I could. Give me both. I want to see what we do with them. I don't know. Like it sounds like we're finally getting the Flanagan Clayface movie that was rejected years ago, and I don't know which version it will be in, but like, hell yeah, like I really want to see that.
Yeah, I don't mean to close myself off like this. I'm having a really hard time like imagining characters on both sides, just because like there's this kind of like corporate thing in my brain that goes, they're not gonna allow that to happen, but like they might at this point.
Yeah, well, because I would have said the same thing.
I just lived in a world for so long, up until just recently, that wouldn't even let you put a Batman or a Superman on TV at the same time as movies, and now we're going to have two movie continuities simultaneously with totally different tones.
Yeah, well, I would have had the exact same thing if it weren't for, like, several months ago, Gunn was asked a question about, like, oh, are you guys doing this as Batman to, like, make sure it's super far away from Reeves?
Yeah.
And he was like, we're not approaching Batman from the point of view of make it different. We're approaching it from make a story. Yeah. So I'm like, we could see some overlap in things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll try not to be, like, super, like, cribbing the same stories.
Yeah, but if they're developing them independently and not even talking to each other, that could be the best possible outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't know. There's just like so many things you can do.
Yeah, obviously, there's so much you can do.
Yeah, give me Killer Croc in both.
And then, like, what will their Alfred be like? Like, it's gonna be so hard not to just compare the two big screen things we have simultaneously.
And
also,
Gordon, like, what will that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I would think with the Batman reinventing things as much as it is, they'll go a lot more directly off the page.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean? Like, I imagine, who knows, but I imagine the DCU side probably won't do as much, like, race swapping and that kind of stuff.
Well, I could see...
Or they might just cast whoever they like best in roles.
Yeah.
But so far, even just with what we're seeing with Superman Legacy, it's all real off the page. So far. I mean, pretty much, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I could see them going to like an older Gordon, as opposed to the Batman.
Yeah.
That like traditional gray-haired Gordon instead of. I know he's not a redhead in the Batman, but like he's not grayed yet either.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be the massive age difference that you often get, but then that might also just be that actor wears his age really well. I don't know.
No, Jeffrey Wright just looks really
Like
good.
Jeffrey Wright's not. Yeah, it's not like you have, because that's a young Batman too. I mean, he's like what, 30?
Yeah, he's about what the Superman will be.
I mean, he's still working with a Gordon that is old enough to be his dad.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep having to remind myself of that because Jeffrey Wright just wears his age really well.
Yeah, because they look like they could be the same age.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but he doesn't look,
Or like around the same age, I mean.
he doesn't look old enough to be his dad, but he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Michael Reed says, I want Harvey Bullock.
Mm-hmm. I want Harvey Bullock in both.
I do too.
And I have faith we will get a good Alfred because we've never had a bad Alfred. It's a character that's completely impossible to miscast, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of Pennyworth.
Oh, that doesn't count. Come on now. That doesn't count. And that's probably the best Alfred anyways. He fought V.
He fought V for Vendetta.
And London was nuked. That's the best Alfred. I hope that Alfred carries over. That is canon.
Look, man, you really need to stop coming on my shows and spoiling the end of that show for the 3 people that might someday watch it.
We got Dodson over here. Yeah,
We got Dodson.
No one cares.
Well, I'm glad I let this run long enough so we could talk about villains and stuff in Brave and the Bold. That was good. We actually got a little bit of speculating done there.
Yeah, there was a comment. I think it was Robert Wild earlier that said something like, "It's been 0 minutes since Cap talked about the MCU in this DCU speculation cast." That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I figured we'd get some crap for that.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
it's hard not to.
Part of the thing, yeah.
It's hard not to delve into that, and also we've had all the Deadpool developments happen recently, and I'm not doing a Captain Logan show this week, so when that came up, it was. Admittedly, I kind of forgot what show we were doing. We got like 5 minutes into that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we were doing the speculation thing," and now I'm talking about Deadpool.
Yeah, and I mean, DC's being taken over by a Marvel guy, so you kind of can't separate them entirely.
Yeah, but I have to go on about Deadpool 3 for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's all good.
Or probably 15 actually, with all the. Anyway, whatever.
Hour and a half.
Here's a question. How long will... Okay, I'll frame it like this. How long will the DCU go before broaching multiverse? And will they... and do you think they'll avoid the concept for as long as possible so that people won't like make assumptions of, oh, you'll probably just go to old movies again or that sort of thing? Like, do you think they'll avoid it, or do you think they'll just do, the comic book thing of the multiverse has always been, a part of comic book storytelling, and we'll go there when we want to tell stories there? Like, Gunn has made 1 movie in the DCU so far, and he didn't avoid multiverse in that movie. Yeah. So
that's my answer. Yes, I think they'll go to it when necessary, and it won't be, hey, look, CGI Val Kilmer is here. It'll just be like, oh, Batmite is a multiversal being. That's what he is.
And they won't feel the need with concepts like that to because I realize, we've been with the multiverse for a while now with MCUs, so like more people know what that is, but Marvel seemed to kind of feel the need to really hold people's hands with it. Like sometimes when Marvel will introduce concepts like that, it kind of feels like, for lack of a less mean way to say it, like baby's first comic book or like baby's first sci-fi thing. DCU won't do that.
No, you said the Suicide Squad just like casually drops like, oh, this multiversal thing.
Yeah.
I think it'll just be more like that. Like, it's just a comic book world, and there are characters from other universes, because
We're talking about Polka Dot Man for people who haven't seen that movie or don't know what we're talking about, but he gets his powers because he has a virus from another dimension, and we're just given that in exposition, and we move on. And that's all I've ever wanted from this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like
If a casual moviegoer doesn't know what that means, does it confuse the rest of the story for them?
Yeah,
No,
probably not. No,
they don't need to know what that. Like, that's like technobabble in Star Trek, where like you don't really need to full on understand like warp and like warp bubbles and all of that to get the story we're telling with that stuff, right?
Yeah. No, all you need to know is that guy done throw polka dots at people. That's all you really need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to get matter antimatter.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? You just go, okay, they got warp, and I guess this thing's going to blow up, and that's bad.
That's the best thing to come out of all of that canon is wiped away, is I can have Captain Boomerang back.
Yeah. He'll be a different actor now, probably, but...
Yeah, probably. It'll be Henry Cavill.
Yeah, that'd be a video for us to make. Top 5 characters that we want to see Henry Cavill come back and play.
Alfred, Captain Boomerang, the Ultra Human Knight.
Can I go real weird and obscure?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
Is it Clock King?
Conduit.
Oh, okay, there you go. Superman Blue.
Superman Blue.
Yeah, and a different actor. Brandon Routh will be.
We'll come back and play Superman Red.
Yeah, he'll be Superman Red.
I was going to ask you this question too. All jokes aside, if the villain of, let's go back to Legacy for a minute. If the villain of Legacy, because I know you're not a big Superman guy, so I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you this. If Superman Legacy doesn't use the Authority as the villains or have them in that movie like you're suggesting they might, and if it's not the obvious big Superman villain in Brainiac, what like actual Superman rogue would you like to see?
That's a good question. Parasite.
And why is it Parasite? Yeah, that's...
I would say probably Metallo before Parasite, but Parasite would be cool. Well, I just think that Metallo's a really easy character to do with Lex. It's like you can kind of easily do them together.
Yeah.
Mixoplex, I think, would be really cool.
That sounds like a real gun thing to do.
100%.
And you'd be okay with that first?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that first.
And going that kind of wild and out there, I would too, honestly.
Yeah. No, that stuff doesn't bother me. I'm fine with doing that.
Morrison did it early in his run.
I'm trying to think of like who else.
Well, okay, kind of middle, but oh man, can I tell you what I want Superman Legacy to be about?
Yeah, go for it.
I want that movie, to straight up do Bottle City of Kandor first.
Okay, yeah. That would be cool.
I would love that. Because that's always a great way to bring Superman back to his Kryptonian roots.
Yeah.
Like through the Bottle City.
Yeah.
Then you could really avoid doing all of that in flashback. Sorry, say that again?
To do that with Brainiac?
I think you can do it with or without Brainiac. I think it's possible to do a whole story where, like, he finds it, there's, like, a big mystery about it, maybe there's some other villain plot he's dealing with, and then his finding that maybe by the end of the movie leads to, Brainiac's coming or something. Like, he wouldn't necessarily have to be the main villain of that movie. It could be leading us to Brainiac.
Mm-hmm. I heard a rumor the other day, and I don't think this is true, which is why I'll bring it up, but it would be interesting also for a villain, which is that Krypton would be destroyed by Mongrel, and like that would set up him for a sequel. I'd be fine with doing Mongrel in Superman Legacy. I'm just struggling to think of Superman villains.
Yeah. So Metallo's a great idea. He's getting a little old for it now, but it would be kind of a coup if you brought back Malcolm McDowell as a live-action Metallo, because he voiced it in the animated series.
Oh yeah, I want Kevin Bacon from Metallo.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah.
In my head, he's got a British accent though.
Oh, fair enough. Henry Cavill. It's right there.
That's at the top of my list now. Henry Cavill as Metallo.
He shows up as Henry Cavill and immediately gets his flesh burned off. But that he's
how
Henry
much
Cavill.
would that piss off all of the Cavill fans?
I know, but I would love it.
Let's say, like, I don't like Cavill, like I do, but
yeah, I've never loved Henry Cavill, and a lot of that's just because of material.
Right.
But I don't. I've yet to see the role where I'm like, I really like Henry Cavill as an actor. I don't dislike him. He's okay.
Did you see? I know the new one's about to come out, but did you just see that last Mission Impossible? He's really good in that.
No, I haven't yet. I'm planning on seeing it either tomorrow or the day after. But I'm taking my little brother to see the new one, so we're gonna watch 6 before. That movie
is on track to make so much money.
It's got like 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, that's crazy.
Those guys know how to make action movies, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That last one was dynamite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, our buddy Noah on Discord saw it early. He saw it like 3 days ago, and he said it was like really good.
It is apparently on track to do like 250 opening weekend.
Hell yeah.
It's awesome. It's going to be ridiculous. Hey, look, he's Kite Man.
I just think it's really funny that Tom Cruise like helped bring back theaters, and then they were immediately like, IMAX theaters are immediately dropping your movie.
I know.
Second weekend. That's so unfortunate. But that movie's gonna be great. I'm excited.
I didn't know until yesterday. Sorry, we'll get back to this and then we'll finish up. But I didn't find out until yesterday that Downey is in Oppenheimer.
Yep.
I had no idea. I was already really interested in that movie, but
I remember hearing about that months ago. Yeah.
And I haven't been excited about a Nolan movie in a long time. Like, this is the first one I'm actually gonna get in my car and go see in the theater. Although, I mean, I guess I went to that last one because it was because that was when theaters were just opening up again, and it was like the only thing that he was playing, and I ended up seeing it and didn't love it. But the weird time travel backwards movie, what was that called?
Tenet.
I'll never remember the name of that movie, man. I can't do it.
It's awful. So
doesn't stick with me.
My dad texted me out of the blue like 3 months ago. He's like, "Hey, I watched this movie the other day called Tenet. It was so bad. I turned it off." I was like, "Yeah, that is correct."
First of all, I had to turn on subtitles and wear headphones. It's the only way I can even understand what was happening.
Oh my god, I saw the funniest
and I still didn't know what was happening.
I saw the funniest comment the other day where it was like, so there was like some article that came out about how Nolan said that Oppenheimer has no fully CGI shots, and it was like, we use practical effects to recreate the nuke blast, and one of the comments was like, you can do all this, but you can't figure out how to sound mix.
It's baffling, and it's like, you realize that that's the sort of job you outsource, right? Like, I'm sure they have a sound mix guy, but why consistently are his movies difficult to understand?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's really strange. I mean, it's inconsistent in that some are worse than others. But I'm just saying it's a problem he's had. He's had a history of this.
Yeah, exactly.
MP for $9 super chat. Really appreciate you tonight, man. Thanks very much. On Joker, having Oracle and Jason's death would readily distinguish the DCU Joker from all prior film versions. Hopefully, Hamill inspired and is buds with Lex.
So I just had a brain fart moment and thought that he was saying the death of Oracle, and I was like, I don't want that. But now I get what he's saying now. Okay, yeah. No, I agree. That'd be cool.
Yeah, well, and for me, just gives it more credibility, and right away makes me feel more at home because that's comic stuff that I like.
Absolutely,
it doesn't have to be that to be good, and there's different eras of comics. So, saying on a selfish note, I would really appreciate that. That's the stuff that I was more invested in growing up.
But how good would it be to get back to a Joker that's just permanently like white?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, fell into the chemicals and
Bleach skin.
exactly.
Now, on his like Joker buds with Lex thing, that's where you lose me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have that.
I've never liked that.
Mhm.
Even in like I love the world's finest animated series of episodes that they made a movie, but that part of it never really jived with me.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't
Lex just
see
seems
the-
like an idiot for even working with the Joker. I don't know, like it's not a
Yeah.
dynamic that I particularly love.
You
but-
only do that because they're each the main villain, but like
Yeah.
they don't work together.
Yeah,
I
what do
agree.
you really do thematically with it? I mean, like there's superficial stuff on paper, I guess, just in that each of them is the others. Like what I liked about the one thing I did like that they did with those two in the movie is that in the animated series is that they made a case kind of for what you would do for each of them if they were each other's arch nemesis.
Mhm.
So
No,
like
that's a cool idea.
if you do, but you don't need them to be together to do that. Is the thing. Like there's not a cool, in my mind, dynamic in teaming them up, because it's like, why would Lex ever work with the Joker? Why wouldn't the Joker just kill Lex? Like there's not any great reason. You have to come up with some kind of leverage one has over the other to even force the whole thing to work. But if you take, like I said earlier, if you take Lex and just make him Batman's villain for a story, that's interesting. And the same thing is true the other way. I mean, you can do a cool Joker goes after Superman story. I just don't need them together, really.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Give us Lex and the Riddler,
He's
and
just
then
rolling.
combine them into one character named Jesse Eisenberg.
He's just rolling d20s. Austin, are you ready to wrap up tonight?
Yep. Yeah, we went way longer than I expected.
Yeah, same here. That always happens, though.
Yeah, it's just us.
Well, we had a good crowd, and you and I haven't talked in a while, and so I wasn't really in a
Yeah.
massive hurry to shut things down.
Yeah, we talked like 20 minutes before we even started.
Yeah.
It's been a while, yeah.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed it. This will not be the last of our spoiler casts, I'm sure, on the DCU.
Speculation casts, yeah.
What did I say?
Spoiler casts. It's
Yeah, well,
too early, Cap.
Look, we've seen the future, folks. We're spoiling everything.
We've seen the future, and it is great.
We'll see if there is even a Hollywood by next year.
Mm-hmm. No, that is true. There's a chance that we method act the Joker again, and he blows up Hollywood.
They won't need him. They're doing it to themselves. It's just imploding all on its own.
Yeah. What if we don't pay our writers? My father was a writer. he wrote Waterworld.
Oh no.
But if you don't pay one measly writer, the whole world loses their minds. It writes itself.
It really does, yeah. Oh man. I only Oh man. It's getting late, isn't it?
It makes that pencil trick work even better, right?
Yeah. That's what you write with.
Exactly.
I was trying to come up with a good like burn my half joke, and I couldn't get there.
Oh, God, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, I don't know. That one doesn't work as well, I don't think.
I was trying.
First, we're gonna have tryouts.
Tryouts.
Breaks the pencil, jumps it down. Anyways,
Do I look like a guy with a script? Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I'll be back next week. I'm or the week after rather, because I'm out of town again next week. I may do one more stream or two before I go out of town. But anyway, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin the Day Ghost.
Bye, everybody.
Later, folks.